All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we got Mr. Johnny Crisco. Johnny, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, man?
Hey, I'm Johnny with Criscoe Critters, and we work with about 18 species of geckos now. And we'll give you like the introduction from the start. We kind of got started about 9, 10 years ago into reptile keeping when I turned 18, because the growing up, my parents, my whole family was scared of reptiles, so we wasn't allowed to have any. And then when I turned 18, I kind of went crazy. I was mainly into snakes though, and then I had a friend that had left a leopard gecko with us, and we fell in love with the geckos because their personalities was there. And I didn't know nothing about the morphs and all that, so I thought it was literally just the regular ones. And then once I seen that they come in 1,000 different color schemes, I started getting into the breeding aspect. And I was lucky enough to have a friend in Las Vegas with red rock geckos who mentored me in breeding the leopard
Okay,
geckos.
nice.
Kind of helped
Okay.
me teach me the genetics and get understanding everything.
You said you got 18 species. What gecko species you got?
So I work with some of the common ones like your leopard geckos. I have crested geckos and I've got fat tails. I also work with your chihuahuas, the lychees. I've got your dactylotes, and I've got some Bobia psychoras, and I work with 3 species of knobtails. I've got the Odura velvets. I've got Strophoris ciliaris. I've got Diplodactylus batatuses. Then we've also got like skunk geckos. I've got the fanfoot geckos. We've got some dune geckos. We've got
Nice,
Phelsuma geckos. It kind of really diversifies. There's no rim around. So I've got red eye crocodile skinks that I like keeping, and I'm sure
nice.
I'm forgetting a handful of them too. Just trying to go through like on a quick list. And also like one of my favorite ones, the cave geckos. I work with the cave geckos too. They're really cool.
Nice.
It's like having a
Which
leopard
ones do you
gecko
work
that
with?
you don't have to give up heat to. I work with
Yeah.
Bawang and Hyannis right now. I'm trying to get my hands on the
Okay.
Orientalis.
Those are my
Those are my
favorite.
dream pair.
Yeah,
So
Very
that's
cool.
nice.
That's a
All
nice
right.
collection, man.
and
Yeah,
I
definitely.
have the
Yeah,
Polios also. They're one of my newer species. They're kind of a favorite of mine, the Polio
yeah.
false. So
Those are those high yellow oranges ones.
yeah, they're like a bright yellow with a neon orange tail tip.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. Those are pretty cool too. All
And
right.
then like
So
we do the yellow spotteds, and I've got Benoys
okay,
also.
nice. Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, 'cause I know I'm forgetting some. I've just got a lot of species that go out there. Oh,
Yeah.
Cryodactylus. I got the Pachelluses, the giant bent-toed ones.
Oh, nice. Really? All right.
Yeah,
I
I
know who
really
I'm
like
about to talk
those.
to after this. Like I said, I got
They're
a
fun.
Cerdactylus nummulosus, and I'm getting some more coming
Okay.
in pretty soon. Of the what are they? The
Yeah.
Cerdactylus striatus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Said
There's a lot
I
of
said
really
we
nice
talked.
Cerdactylus species out there.
Yeah. Like I said, it's 300 species in counting. They just found some new
Yeah, it's
ones.
a
So
really big genre there. So if you can't find
yeah.
one in there, you're probably just be picky.
All right. So tonight, like we're actually gonna be talking about two different species. We're gonna be talking about some night lizards, and we're also gonna talk about uh the white line gecko, aka skunk gecko, right?
Yep.
All right, cool.
That's what I
Yeah,
call them most of the time is the skunk geckos.
yeah.
We could start with those if you want. They're really they're a
The
neat
skunks.
species in their own way. I feel like they're really
Yeah,
underrated, because usually when you see them on the tables as like fresh imports, and
yeah,
I feel like that kind of gives the species itself like a wrong look in a sense because everybody looks at them like eh. But if you give them the chance, they're really cool. Now I know a lot of people say theirs are like defensive. I personally have never really experienced that. Mine are sweet. The
yeah.
the
So
craziest
don't
thing they
carry
do is
that.
like when you open your tank and you go to spray them, they'll like squill and they'll run and jump out at your face. But once you get used to that, they're not that bad. But like you can grab them and put them right back and they won't bite you. Versus like the tokay, when you grab it, like you might lose part of your skin there.
Death
Yeah,
lizards.
yeah. And they're
Yeah,
related to tokays, right?
yeah. I have tokays also.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah. But
honestly,
the so
I'm
the
not
white
gonna
lines
lie to you and
they're
say yes or
related,
no
right?
since I don't really know. I think they might be in the same family tree,
Yeah,
but I don't want to misadvise you because I really don't
yeah.
know.
So I think they're
Interesting.
gecko vittatus or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, they're
Yeah,
like the
just like
tokay. They're one of the easy ones. Like the tokay is gecko. So
yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't really get
Yeah, I
that one
think.
wrong.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
Vitatus is cool though, but I think like with the scientific, it gets misconstrued because like when I was in the Diplodactylus genre, for example, trying to find the Australian Vitatuses, every time I would message somebody asking about Vitatus, even if I included Diplodactylus, I would always get pictures of skunk geckos, and I
Okay.
was like, no, no, not that one. But the skunk geckos, I have 3 females and 1 male, and I seem to have good luck with that. I know some people say you can't really keep them in groups, but I've got them in a big tank, and it seems to work out. The
Okay.
eggs for me was the tricky part because for the first few years they kept eating them, and then I was talking with Paul, and he informed me that it was because they was duds. I went with that, and it was the females was still kind of small that year. So
Yeah.
then after that, this year like we've been getting great eggs. The year before that was good. So you just got to give them time to kind of work their cycle out, and their
Okay.
eggs take forever to hatch, and you can't really move them. They glue them. So
Yeah.
once
Yeah.
they're there, they're there. Mine always go to
So
the tank, so you can't really move them.
so like I said, they're pretty close to that Tokay stuff. Do they do the same as the Tokays? Are they like really family oriented, or is it just kind of if there's babies out, they're gonna try to go after them?
Well, it's hit or miss. I've had it both ways. Like I've literally the weirdest one is I had a female recently that guarded her clutch all the way up until about 60 something days, and when she decided she would eat the egg. So I don't know, but most of the time they just hatch out, and I find them running around in there, and for safety reasons, I'll just pull them out to be safe. But
Gotcha.
like the Tokays and the Paleos are a good example. They guard their offspring. They want to rear them themselves.
Okay. Nice.
Very-
So you want to kind of go over the care from a baby to an adult, and then we'll kind of get into like the
Yeah.
breeding
So
stuff after that.
the care wise, for me it's pretty simple. I think the most part, but is your ambient temps. Your ambient temps kind of help a lot. It's like where I'm so diverse with all these other species, I kind of just run between 70 and 75 for the ambient. So for them, I give them a UVB and a low wattage heat light. I'm shooting for like a basking area close to 90 degrees. I'm not really trying
Okay.
to go over that, and I don't want to dry them out neither. So I'm trying to keep a humidity between 50 to 70% at all times, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
keep the heat be the hot side like 80, basking 90, cool about 70ish. They seem to do good like that. Now, food, they're endless food pits. So as long as you can just constantly provide food, you'll be okay. That's going to be the hardest part. Is they just love to eat. And they'll eat Pangea, they'll eat insects. So I didn't really know about them eating Pangea that much, and my wife was making rounds one day and put Pangea in there, I guess thinking it was like Chihuahua related or something, and she just sticks some Pangea in there, and they all went straight for it. But then after talking with some other people, apparently that they have been eating it in captivity for a while. So I just didn't know
Okay.
about it. But it is a fun alternative to, if you don't want to chase crickets that night, you can just put some Pangea in there.
In
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. I've always heard
The
what was it? I was listening to like a episode with Joe Hupp on it, and he's like anything that's tropical, he gives them Pangea, regardless if they're
Yeah.
insectivorous or not. So I mean, it's always a
Well,
good thing.
most of them
Like
will
I
eat it.
yeah. That's I've given it
So
to my
I think it's a
Oreadors
good thing to
before.
offer 'em.
Yeah.
Because like we know a
Yeah.
lot about reptiles in captivity, but we don't know everything. And I'm sure that the tropical animals out there, like he's saying they're going to eat something like that in the wild eventually, whether they're doing it on
Yeah.
purpose or accident.
Yeah.
Hmm. Makes
That's
sense.
what
I
yeah.
mean, they're opportunistic, right? I mean, they're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah. If
they're gonna.
anything comes around and they can fit in their mouth, they're pretty much usually go right for it. Now I will say, like I have noticed that in the groups, the male does tend to protect the females. He seems to stay up front. He's not really aggressive, but like if you reach in there, he'll be the first one to squeal and start running circles into the tank, and then he'll be the one to jump out at you, and you just put it back in there.
Yeah.
But compared to like some of the other species, I would 100% deal with them because like I've got a lychee that's full grown, and you open it up, and she'll try to light you up. So I would rather deal with the ones that spaz out. I think they're a little easier to deal with.
Yeah.
The babies, though, for me, in my opinion, I just kind of treat them like a mini adult.
Okay.
I tried quarantine bins and all, but I feel like it wasn't holding the humidity right, and it led to a lot of issues early on in the babies. But once we switched over into just like mini nanos with pretty much the same as the adult, just smaller setups, it was great.
Yeah.
Now I will say with the nano, you don't really have to have a heat source, you can use the UVB light, and it does seem to put off just enough heat to keep it warm up there. So it's
Yeah.
like a little cheat code. And I know some people
Yeah.
do it in, they'll use like the tall deli cups with a screen mesh lid, and they seem
I
to
use
work
those
pretty
for my
good at keeping
chauffeurs.
them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use those for the my intermediates since they're so tiny, and I'll put them in a 32
Yeah,
ounce
they're
deli cup.
super tiny.
Yeah.
When I had Silliaris out, I was like looking at the parents and I'm looking at the baby, and I'm like, there's no way. Like, they're so tiny in comparison. It's
Yeah.
like I'm used to seeing Leos and all hatch out all big and fat babies, and then you start getting into these diverse species, and you're like, wow. Especially when you hatch a micro gecko, they're like itty bitty.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I
almost
see.
terrifying.
What's the smallest baby you have to deal with currently, like out of the egg?
For me, oh, it's my
Yeah, like
right now it's my intermediates. Next year it'll be my the Cerdodactylus nebulosus.
okay.
Yeah.
The one I've had to deal with the smallest was the Phelsuma lanatas. They're like
Yeah.
itty bitty. Luckily,
Yeah.
they eat Pangea though, so I didn't have to deal with the whole like panic process of trying to find something small enough for it to eat.
Fruit flies,
Which I
fruit
guess in
flies, and fruit
those
flies.
senses, you're just going to go with like fruit fly species. But
Yeah. Yeah. Like I
Those
said, I
things are
always heard like
tiny.
fire brats and stuff too.
yeah,
From my buddy Jake.
the fire brats. What's I seen a thing on there the other day about those and the high calcium sources. Is there like a supplier for those too?
I found some on the internet, so somebody's breeding them. But I just haven't purchased any yet.
Yeah, I've never used them either.
I
Yeah.
haven't either. They kind of reminded me of a silverfish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's what they
That's
look like. Yeah. So, what size are those nanos? What are they, like 8 by 8 by 12 or something like that?
They're I think they're like an 8 by 8 by 8. They're the one
Okay,
right under. Well, it's not the 12. The 12 is a little taller. These are kind of just like a cube. You could go with
gotcha.
the 12. I've never tried it, but I would assume they just climb a little bit more.
Okay, gotcha
Now
on that
the
one.
adults, I try to go with like a 18 by 18 by 36 if I'm gonna run with a pair. Because when you get them, when
Okay,
you see them out at shows, they're small. You don't never really see big specimens at
full
the
size
shows.
one. Yeah,
So yeah, it's kind of misconstruing because a lot of people are like, oh, they're just small geckos, and then you get in it a year later and you've got like a tokay framed skunk gecko
yeah,
in there, this little 12 by 12 by 18, and you're like, whoa, it just don't
yeah,
fit.
yeah. Exactly.
Because they get pretty big. Like, I didn't realize how big they got until I saw Nate Berry's female. Like, I had some big specimens, but like his female was huge. And I was
Yeah,
like, dude, and he's like, yeah, she's a healthy eater. And I'm like, yeah, I'd say so. She's definitely healthy.
yeah. So, how do you get them prepared for for breeding season? How do you get like what's everything that you go through before you actually start
So
looking to pair these geckos up?
what I try to do is I follow the North Carolina cycle here. I don't try to get too like scientific crazy because if I did that with all these species, I would have like so many winters and springs going on at different times. I just try to keep it to my seasons here. So like when we start getting cold in the fall, I just dim everything down, slow the food down, separate them out from each other. Then when we start warming up, I'll start bumping up the diets, bump the heat back up a little bit, and reintroduce everybody. And it's
Okay.
literally, to me, it reminds me of, not, I've never bred frogs, but when you hear frogs calling each other, that's what it reminds me of. Because, like, once you put them in there, they just start going crazy. Granted, they can see each other. They're on the other sides of the tank. They still call for, like, hours trying to locate each other. I've
Oh
yet to
yeah.
understand that one. I always pick on the Paleos and all, because, like, they're sitting there vocalizing, and it's really cool, and it sounds great. But, like, you can physically see each other. So, like, I don't understand why they're looking for each other that close. Unless it's like a communication thing. Maybe
I,
there's more
I
to it than seeking.
I think it is a communication thing. Like I said, I got like my Cerdodactylus, right? The male
Yeah.
does all the chirping, and he can see the female in the other cage, and he just looks. He just looks at her and starts doing his little chirp, 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 and then she'll start like kind of purring and vibrating and everything like that. I'm like, okay, you guys are talking. What do you got? I was
Yeah.
like, what are you saying? I don't know, but you guys ain't ready yet, so no, you can't be together.
But you could tell like the way they act with each other sometimes. There's gotta be like communication patterns. Like the
Oh yeah,
nod tails when they breed. They sit there and run in circles and like wave their tails at each other. So
Yeah.
that's probably the coolest ritual I've experienced, at least in person, would be like knobtail related, as far as showing
Yeah.
behavioral
Oh yeah.
during the
Very,
breeding.
So what's
very.
the market look like for them? Is it? I mean, like you said they got wild cows always still coming in. Are
There's a lot of
people?
wild calls. I'm not gonna say the market's bad for them. I would say
Yeah.
like do it for a fun project. I don't keep a bunch of them. I've got the 3 females and the male, and the only reason the group's so big is because I was expecting with imports there's going to be issues, but I didn't have no issues, and they all did really well. So we ended up being able to
Nice.
keep the whole group. But
So did you
the
have to do the
market
whole
for
quarantine
them
process?
is yeah, you want to do a quarantine process for sure with them
Yeah.
guys. And I mean, it doesn't even hurt to use some panic here just to be safe, to go ahead
Okay.
and treat them. Because even if an importer tells you they've been treated, I got trust issues. I don't trust them. So I still quarantine and do it again. Because, like, once you get this many geckos, you don't want to lose everything to one.
Oh, for sure.
So I just
Yeah.
take the extra precaution with them. But the market for them, the hard part is, like, trying to find people that are into them.
Yeah.
Really, it's not a bad market. It's just not a huge market like you have for like leopards and cresteds and chihuahuas and all. It's very
Yeah.
select or few people that are looking for them. And then you've kind of got to do a due diligence talk with them because it's a cheaper animal on your table. So it's usually the first one somebody flocks to because they're like, oh, well, I can afford this one more. And then you got to kind of explain to them this isn't like your leopard gecko. Yes, you're not really going to handle this one like you do these other ones. It'll come
Yeah.
out on you, but you're not going to make it stay still, pet its head, and have a story time with it. It's not going to happen. So
No booping the snoop.
once you explain that to them, typically it kind of like closes your window on it. But I would rather
Yeah.
disclose it from the start than it get there and be rehomed 2 months in, because
It's
Oh
that's
yeah,
awesome.
what
for sure.
happens with a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's good. It's super responsible, man.
I tell everybody it's like one of those projects that you do for fun and passion. Don't do it to make a lot of money because you're gonna have way more in feeding them and the kinks and caring for them than you're ever gonna
Yeah.
make off of your skunk geckos.
Yeah.
But they're still a really good species to be in. Now, I'm sure if you give it 10 to 20 years from now, they're gonna go up in price because they're so underrated. People will quit working with them,
Yeah.
and then they'll jack up
Didn't
on
they?
price.
And then they just isn't there like they got a hypo gene now, right?
There was someone talking about it. I think we're still waiting on them to see if they're gonna be able to prove it out or not. But there is definitely
Gotcha.
something going on in their pool. But
Yeah. You would
I've
figure
never had
something would have
anything
some
crazy
stuff.
happen in there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Do
I
I?
figure there should be some stuff if they're like cousins to the tokays and stuff. I mean, you see all the stuff that's
Yeah.
coming out with tokays, so you
Well,
think
I
maybe they
think
have
what
something
we're
going
gonna
on.
see is that the more people start focusing in on a lot of these underrated stuff, that we're gonna start pulling a lot more albinos and hypos and
Yeah.
melanistics. I just
Yeah.
like right now a lot of people's focus is heavy on stuff that's already working, so they're not like shooting in the unknown, which
Yeah.
which is cool, 'cause you don't want to take shots in the dark. Not all your shots, at least, but I will still shoot some shots in the dark. I like working with them. But I personally think the normal visual is a better appeal than the
Hmm.
others so far. But with line breeding, I'm sure that's going to change and turn around. The more they breed it, the better it'll get.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
That's
hopefully
like
they
I just
stop
seen
bringing in a
somebody
lot of wild
posted like the
caughts.
first albino hyensis out over in China. So
I think I've seen that. Yeah, I
I
think I
will
did
say
see
like it
that.
looked really cool as a baby, but as the adult, it remarkably looks like a Tremper albino. You can
Really?
still tell it's not, and it's different, but it
Yeah,
really reminds me of the Tremper albino gene.
man. Oh, that ain't great. No, I definitely like the darker colors for a cave gecko because that's what makes a
Yeah.
cave gecko. Darker colors,
Yeah.
red eyes. They're like the little emo leopard gecko.
That's exactly what they are. And you don't have to heat them up for none of the other stuff, so you kind of get the best of both worlds. As long as
Yeah,
you've got decent ambience, at least.
yeah,
If you live at like
definitely.
my mom's house, you're definitely going to want a heat source. It's like a little Alaska over there.
Yeah. All right. So, let's go ahead and talk about these night lizards, though. I've been, really starting to look into these a little bit more since you said you were working with them. I was like, okay, let me find some stuff out about these. But so, where do they come from, and what's like their natural habitat? What does it look like?
So habitat wise with them, it's kind of like real hit and miss as far as like the information goes, because there's not a whole lot of info out there with them. But what we
Yeah,
do know is they love to go deep down in burrowy areas. They like to be in like vegetation that's fallen, and they don't go very far. So like if you set one up like so, I've got a buddy, Touch the Earth Exotics. He's working on the yellow spots with me. I had let him keep them for the last year and a half and kept his notes with him, and I kept them the previous 2 years. And we've got some comparisons on them, and both of us can tell you, like, when they're in their tanks, they have a corner. Like, she's got a hide in the corner spot, and that's where she's always at.
Yeah.
They don't go very far from it. They'll still explore their tanks, and they do like we've got ours multiple like videos on over basking under the UVB light, so we do have them using that. And for us, it seems to be that when they're gravid is when you're going to see them basking the majority of the time, and
Okay.
that takes a very long period of time with them. So we don't really know when it starts. If I'm being honest with you, because like they don't lock up because there's no males. You just
Yeah.
notice that the female starts getting fatter. And
Okay.
that's when you just start noting the date. And then from when we see that, it's usually about 3 to 4 months from then to when we get offspring.
Okay.
And correct, it's live birth. So you kind of just walk in there and you'll just see these little guys. But usually they don't go far from the mom. We do separate them out though, just to be safe, because night lizards are territorial, and you'll end up with nip tails and stuff, kind of like bearded dragons.
Okay.
But the reproduction's really weird because, like, we know about how long it's taken, right? And we know when it starts developing because they fatten up, but we don't know what triggers it. That's one thing. Like, what is it that makes them want to do that? Is it natural, or is it like, are they lonely? Is it a communal thing? There's a lot of questions I still haven't been able to answer, really, to that. But note-wise, it's kind of hard to observe them because we're only working with one adult specimen anymore. The other specimen passed like 2 years in. So,
Okay.
but I don't know how old they was. We got them at imports. I think it was Reptile Collective. It was at a Repticon. They had them out there for like $250 a piece. So I bought the two biggest specimens on the table. It took a good year and a half before the first litter was even produced. So
Really?
I don't
Okay.
know at what age they start to reproduce. That's one of the things we're in the process of now, is raising these babies out to see when they drop their litters. And we're going
Okay.
to document that to kind of help keep up with the time frames of it and see if we can notice anything different with that aspect of them. But
Very nice.
the habitat's really a good one though, because like they don't go far from it. We know that they like to burrow down and be deep, and they like to have fallen veggies and stuff, like, or vegetation, any brush that they can get away from and hide. And
Okay.
they're like really nocturnal, so like they don't do like most nocturnal species you'll see out during the day every blue moon. Our yellow spots we don't ever see out during the day. You got to get up at like 2 in the morning and come in with a flashlight, and you'll see them coming out moving around. They're vigorous hunters though. You can dump like handfuls of crickets or whatever insects, snails, arthropods. They'll eat a variety of stuff, and they've got a beak, so you don't have to worry about them not being able to break the food item down. They can take down
Okay.
just about anything they can get in their mouth.
Nice.
Very
And
cool.
where are they from?
They're from central Mexico originally.
Okay.
Now there
All right.
is some documented spot sightings of some in, like, they say there's some down in central Texas. I don't really know how true that is, but I mean, it's not hard to believe that they would venture up just a little bit, and there's a lot of
Oh
people
yeah. I
keeping
mean,
them.
right on those borders, right?
Yeah, but there's also like a lot of misconception with them in Texas because of the movie Holes. A lot of people still think that yellow spotted lizards are these like venomous lizards that do not exist. So like when I first started working with the species, that was a struggle because like when you would look into the information, you would start finding all this information about an animal that was from a Disney movie. And you're like, no, I'm looking for this one. And there was very little about it. But there's a few other people that are working with them that we've been able to get up with and compare notes to. Like one
Yeah.
of the interesting things is one person was saying that they feel like there's a venom gland or something that works in the mouth of the yellow spot. And I originally thought it was like a joke from the Holes movie, and then me and Keon at Touch the Earth was looking at it a little more, and they do have a little more saliva in their mouth while they're eating and hunting. If you give them a bigger prey item, they will nip it, and it does eventually die. But like, there's questions that I still have, like, are they dying because it crushed an internal organ during the hunt, or is it actually something in the saliva doing the work?
Okay.
There's a few things there we're not 100% sure about, but we are paying attention to it. But I'm going to try to get up with some buddies that can help me get some lab tests on it to see if we can figure something out there.
There you go. How
That's
long have they
nice.
been in the hobby?
They've been in for a while. I don't really know the exact date, but I can tell you that when they first started coming in, they was like $25 animals. Now you very rarely see them. It's kind of like I was saying with the skunk geckos. They was in and they're mass imports, and people was pretty much giving them away at one point. And then it got to where you couldn't find them anymore, and they started getting attention to them, and then everybody started jacking them up, and then you started seeing them come back out into the hobby a little more.
That's how it
I've
always
personally
goes.
been seeing their presence in the hobby at shows and all for about the last 8-9 years, but it's been slowing down more and more. Because I grabbed them the first time I seen them because I thought they was cool. It reminded me of a tiny monitor, but in a lizard form. So I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I'm gonna jump on this train. And they was like, oh yeah, they're parthogenic, and I was like, oh, this is great. I don't have to worry about two. I can just work with one and figure it out.
Right.
And there's a bunch of other species of the yellow spot that work the same, but it's a weird genre because like, all right, so the yellow spotted in general, the one I have is female and she does reproduce parthogenically. But there's also the same species of yellow spot, not a different one, has males, but they're only on like 10% of that island. But if you go to that percentage, like you can get males and females that breed just like normal lizards. But then if you get outside of it, you've got where they're asexual doing parthogenesis. So males do exist with the same. I can't pronounce a scientific one, so I'm not going to try it.
Yeah.
It's a mouthful, but the same one, it does have males in there, but not all of them need a male to
Okay.
reproduce. So it's kind of weird. But some species don't have any asexualism whatsoever. They're just straight males and females. But the Smithy, the Smith's night lizard, it's also reproduces parthogenesis. So I
Okay.
feel like there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be figured out with the yellow spots that's like way above my brain scale that we need some like blood lab work and all done to kind of understand it a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
I'm
do they
interested to see where
pseudo
it goes.
lock?
Do what?
So if you have like when you had your two females, right? Did they pseudo lock? Like there's like some species that one will act kind of like a male, but they're both female, and they'll lock up just to get
So
everything going.
with mine it was really hard to say. I didn't keep them together. I had them separated, so they never really
Oh, okay.
interacted because
Gotcha.
I was more worried that they would fight with each other than anything because they are very territorial. But
Yeah.
I don't know if they would. I mean, that's a good question. It really is. I never noticed any behavioral change until they started getting like the fatterness in them. And then the behavioral change you'll see will be like their appetite's going to pick up. The aggressiveness towards you is going to pick up. She's not going to want you like getting more near her. She's not going to want you intruding on that cave to do a welfare check and kind of
Yeah.
stuff like that. And the problem is it lasts forever. Like they get so big. It reminds me of Dunbars in a sense. Like you're gonna be like, dude, are you gonna blow up? Like they're so big, and then you'll
Yeah.
just walk in and they're like half the size and there's babies everywhere. Because they can lay really big clutches. Like they can go up to 8. I mean, some people say they've gotten 12 out of them, but I think the most in the U.S. reported was like 8. But the
Okay.
first time ours reproduced, we got like a stillborn. It was just one, and it was still in the sack. And then a whole
Okay.
year later, we got the 2, and then after that, it was 3. So we have seen like increase in numbers. So I don't know if this is one of those things to where the young females, the bodies are getting, tuned in,
They're adjusting.
and it
Yeah. Okay.
starts. But it's not like an animal that you can say, "Hey, she's little. I don't want to breed her." You don't get
Yeah.
to. She gets to decide all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, man, that's
Right.
a species of lizard, man. Wow. Talking about evolution, like at its finest. It's like in a
Yeah.
very short amount of time, in a very close range, there was a necessity for one bloodline to,
Mm-hmm.
adapt because of lack of males or population, and then the other. It's my head is going crazy. That's like super freaking
Yeah,
cool.
it's a lot to take in with them, and there's like a lot to still be understood about it. Like you said, like what's going on in that geographical range that decided to make this side, what do they want? What do we call it? Like evolve into a
Yeah.
parthogenesis form, and then this
Yeah.
side didn't. So it makes you wonder what could have been the change. Like what's taking the males out that heavy on the other side? Is it predation? Or is it habitat loss? Is it something outside of those?
When they do hatch, like in the species obviously originated first, the males, the one that has the males, I'm curious if something happened with like climate can change and they are sex dependent upon temperature. The temperatures either rose or dropped and no males were hatching. So out of necessity, they had to evolve with parthenogenesis. I mean, in my head, I could give you 15,000 options on what I could
Well, I mean,
probably.
it's a good hypothesis. I mean, there's a bunch of them that could fit it, so it's really hard to say. But I feel like they'll eventually iron it out because, like, they're picking up in popularity more and more. It's
Yeah.
just like the more people that are going to get involved with it, I think it's going to be like a pyramid scheme. You're going to know people. So once you get involved, then they're going to know, and then their people's going to know, and eventually it's going to reach somebody that's got the labs and the equipment to figure out answers for us, or the
The,
money to travel out there and get the answers.
the lack of answers in information alone makes them that much more interesting. Like that should make them
Correct.
more better than anything with all these cool unknowns. Who really wants to keep breeding and dealing with stuff that everybody and their mothers got, all the
Yeah.
information?
Well, that's
Like,
why I really enjoyed, like, whenever I could get the chance to do it. And I reached out to the individual that's breeding the Smith's night lizards to try to get a couple specimens from them to add into the night lizard family, just to
that's
continue getting more of them. Because there's, like, I think 32 or 33 species of night lizard. There's a bunch of
Oh,
them.
right.
But we
That's dope.
never see maybe, like, 2 or 3 species in captivity. There's a lot that we
Yeah.
never see. And I
awesome.
feel like the answers we're looking for could be hidden in some of the other species. Because the more we learn about the genre, the more it's going to make sense.
Yeah. So what's the ideal setup for your night lizards? Like, so what are your setups for the babies and what are your setups for the adults?
So the babies, you're going to want to run them on a quarantine bin to start out. And
Okay.
then you can move them into bio once you notice that their sizes are picking up on food. Because they're heavy eaters. The problem is when you put them into bioactive, sometimes they just kind of burrow down, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So we have noticed with the quarantine bins, and like I say, quarantine kind of like a small one. You don't want them to be in nothing like real big. You want them to be small, safe, secure, and let them eat for a few weeks, and just pop them into their bios. And when
Yeah.
we do our bios, the way Touch the Earth, I have him do a lot of my bio builds because he's really smart with that kind of stuff and he's good at it. So he does them, and he kind of sets it up like you would if you were setting up for frogs. Like, you want to keep them humid. You don't want it soaking wet, but you want it humid in there. If you let them dry out, you're going to get a lot of scale issues with them. They're going to, how like when a bearded dragon sheds, they get that hard crust over them, and then it flakes off. So they do it in the same sense. The problem is if you let their humidities go, that'll stick to them, and then it can be detrimental, especially if you're
Okay.
dealing with a young specimen. So, like, I would say humidity is one of your highest points. You
What
don't
are you
want it to
aiming
be
for
high.
humidity?
Do what?
What percentage humidity are you trying to aim for when you do it?
In the bios, we're usually sitting between like 60 to 80. It
Okay.
stays a little up there, but it's hard. Like it's a high number, but it's not like wet to the touch. You still got dry
Yeah.
areas in there for them to go to. A lot of the times when people are keeping them, I think a lot of the misconception is the humidity. They take the humidity for water, and then you got
Yeah.
like a soggy tank, and then you get scale rot, and you get all these other issues that come
Yeah.
with that. The heating for them, we don't really provide no extra heat. I mean, the UVB releases a little bit, and then we've got
Mhm.
grow lights for the plants, and we've got it like heavily planted with like pothos, philodendron, stuff that vines and like bushes out a lot. They like really love to dig under that,
Okay.
and the it's like a skull cave. You can get like a kind of like a PetSmart little rock hides. We've got
Mhm.
one of those, and she's managed to burrow up under it and coming into the bottom of it. So she's made her own little gutaway, and that was also where the last clutch of babies was laid at. Was in there also, because they don't spend a whole lot of time outside of their favorite spots.
Really? Okay. So creatures of habit.
Yeah, I mean, like, even the babies, like, if you notice the baby, like, say you're using, like, little cork bark pieces for its
Mhm.
hides, and it's got one on the bottom, right, that it's always under that thing. Even
Yeah.
as it grows, if you bring that whole little thing with it, that'll be its piece. It'll go to it until it outgrows it. I don't
Okay.
know if it's a repetitiveness for them, if it's their comfort zones, but they definitely will go back and forth from the same spot heavily,
Yeah.
which
E- Are they
you would
live
think would
bearers
make
or
it
they drop
easier to
eggs?
take notes on them in the wild because they're not going that far from their spots. So that's why we do got the little notes that we do got from the people that
Yeah.
have been doing the collecting and all.
Are they live bears or they drop eggs?
No, they're live bearers.
Okay. All right. That's
And
fine. I figured that.
I do kind of have like not for y'all, like questions on that species. Like, is that something that evolved into them over time also, or is it something that used to lay eggs out there? Because like with
Yeah.
there's some boas that they'll lay eggs that don't take very long at all until they hatch. They like incubate a little bit on the inside. So I kind of wonder if that
Yeah.
species ever
I
had
know
something
there's some
like that.
there's a sand boa that does that. That it's like a really thin shell egg, and literally they only have that egg for like a week or something like that, and they bust right through it. So they
And
pretty
that's
much
kind of like I'm
incubate in
wondering
the
that did
belly.
this start as a cycle like that, and then this eventually develop into a full live bearing cycle, or is it
Yeah.
something that's just
Maybe
or
it's
it's
just
always been?
their habitat or something. You know,
It's
maybe they
something
can't.
out there. You would think. Like
Yeah.
with like paradoras, I breed them, and they're like super super prolific. But we also
Yeah.
know that they're a feeder source out there, so that's why they're very prolific. Because in the wild, they
Yeah.
would constantly be getting ate up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Because they're good to go. Like 9 months, they're ready to
yeah,
start making babies.
the yellow spots, I don't really know. I mean, we know they've got predation issues. There's birds and stuff that'll get them if they see them. But I don't think that they've got a heavy one. Like some of the other
Yeah.
species, just being considered like a feeder lizard at least.
Yeah. Maybe there's some
And
like
they will spend a lot of time in water. Like if you give them an aquatic area, they will go into that aquatic area. And I
okay.
think it becomes in the wild. Honestly, I think they would like stay near creeks more, in my personal opinion. That way, they have
Yeah.
access to more snails and stuff. And then
Yeah.
creeks also have nice little cutaway burrows that go pretty deep that you could get into.
Yeah. It's
So
very true. I'll say maybe there's like some egg eating snakes out there as well.
yeah,
So maybe that's why they developed
then
into.
that could be it too. Because I mean, they require
Yeah.
a good bit of calcium. You do have to pound them with calciums to keep
Okay.
up with their production for those babies.
Yeah.
I bet they're developing whole.
Yeah, they're developing everything on their own, and they're not getting no assistance from a male. So they're
Yeah.
developing like DNA, everything, coding, which I'm sure that's a big process.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah. So from like you said you put them in a quarantine process before you move them to your bio. So what size are you using a bin or are you just using kind of an
Yeah,
empty
so I'm
cage?
using like a bin. You can use a 6-quart tub, preferably
Okay.
something smaller if you've got it. Like would be I guess equivalent to like a 4-quart tub with a little height on it. Would be like in
Yeah.
my opinion the best bet because you're not going to be in there very long. You're basically just doing that to get them established. And then once you go
Gotcha.
into that, you can go into like a 5-gallon bio build for a baby, which sounds like a
Oh
small
really?
thing, but a baby is very tiny compared to the adult. It's
What size are they are when they are pop out?
I'd
What
say
size are they?
maybe an inch and a half.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, very small. Okay.
They're very tiny, but they do grow kind of quickly, so that is a good thing. But they also eat heavily. So
Yeah.
with the first round, like we had the baby white isopods. They'll eat on those guys. They'll eat on little bitty 1/8 to 3/8 crickets, and they'll eat pretty much anything that's moving in there. But they're also a species that remind me of knobtails in a sense. Like they'll eat as much food as you provide, which can quickly become a problem,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with like small insects and you're trying to put like 4 or 5 in there and 50 drop in there. And then you've got an animal that
Yeah.
will eat all 50 if you allow it. It becomes an
Yeah.
issue because they'll regurge them. So
Ugh.
then you're in there trying to pick out your fruit flies and you end up killing them because you can't really grab them.
Yeah. Yeah. Might as well just kill them off. Like forget it. But
So that was like
so
to me the hardest thing with the babies is keeping a food source for them.
yeah.
Because they're tiny when they come out, but they grow kind of quickly. Then the adults bio, I mean, you can get complex with that if you want. I mean, you can't really mess them up at that point. They're kind of bulletproof in a sense, as long as you're not
Yeah.
letting them dry out. So like
Okay.
if you could build a water feature in it, put some like little cherry shrimp, some gobies in there, something like that. Now you're gonna have to replenish your shrimp and your fish because she's gonna eat them.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
But
that's
it is
good,
neat to
good
watch them,
instincts to
go
see.
out there because a lot of times, like when you read on them online, you don't read nothing about them being aquatic. Like there's very little information about them actually liking to swim around and do stuff in the water. So, but also I doubt very seriously there's anybody out there following yellow spotteds around with a camera, studying their every move. I
What does
mean,
their
it'd
tail
be a
kind of
nice
look like?
documentary to have. I don't see
Yeah,
anybody doing it.
yeah. What does their tail kind of look like? Is it flat or is it
It's
rounded?
so it's kind of like how the iguanas have that triangular shape to the tail. It's got that
Hmm.
kind of shape, but it's also kind of like it's not spiky like silly ours, but it's like really bumpy and nubby. So it doesn't
Okay.
really have a smooth texture. It's just kind of like
Yeah.
really rough and jagged like.
Yeah.
I've
Oh,
actually
it's like
got
just
some macro shots. I'll send to you when we hop off, and you can look
okay.
at them because I like macro photography, and I'm constantly
Okay.
trying to get close up scale shots and stuff on guys like that. So
Nice.
Very cool.
That's cool.
they make
Oh,
really
do
good.
you feed them Pangea as well?
I've not tried it, but now
Yeah.
after I'm not gonna say I'm against it. I think the insect flavor. If they would eat it, it would be a lot easier, especially with going into the babies. Like we was
Yeah.
talking about it
Because
being so
I
tiny.
think I've seen people post like on Wharf Market, someone had one and they put on there that they're feeding it Pangea and bugs as well.
I
That's
mean,
why I was
I've
asking
read
because
it.
that
I've read it on there, so I believe you are correct. I've seen it on there, but I haven't like actively talked to anybody that's tried it.
yeah.
But I'm not against trying it. I don't think it would be detrimental to them to give them a little bit as an experiment. I wouldn't give
Yeah.
them a whole bunch just to be safe to try it out.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Because like
Oh,
I know
man.
the one for the red bag, if I'm not mistaken, is mainly insects. With a little bit of fruit
Hmm.
powder.
Yeah. Either that one or I think the gray bag is that growth and breeder formula.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
really
that
much
one
flavor,
that
but
one would work, but I don't know if I would use it with the babies because it's like a really high calcium, and
okay.
I would be scared it would OD them with the
Gotcha.
calcium because they do have a high calcium requirement, but I don't know if it's as high as like the Pangea goes into. Because like I know with a lot of my species that are diverse, I try to avoid the Pangea silverback because I end up with really fat calcium stacks. So it's
Yeah.
almost like there's more in there that's needed. But then it's kind of weird because like with the Chihuahuas, you can give them the Pangea, and it almost seems like it's not quite enough calcium for them into it.
No. Yeah. I mean, if you've seen their eggs, yeah, they got really calcified eggs. So they use up every little bit of
Yeah.
calcium.
Well, I'm
That's
on
why you
my
gotta give
third
them
clutch
extra.
this year with the Chihuahuas, and I've been using the liquid calcium after every clutch, and that's been
Yeah.
my go-to as far as
Yeah. I
keeping it away.
started doing that as well.
And
So
my female, I got lucky. My female will drink it out the syringe. I give her the papaya flavor, and she doesn't fight me. Now my mainland
okay.
Chihuahua, yeah, she don't like it. She'll, she'll,
Yeah, no,
she'll give me her
I put it in
opinions
their
about it.
Pangea. Yeah. I put it in their Pangea and they clean it up. So I'm like, all right, cool. I ain't even worried about trying to like
Do you
spoon
have
feed
like
it or syringe feed.
like how often do you feed? I try that, but mine seem to like not eat all the food quite often. So I didn't want it to be a case where they didn't get it. I don't know if maybe I feed them
Yeah.
too often or not. Maybe that's why they're not
Well,
eating them.
I mean, even mine don't. I was like, they're they're in bioactives. The mealworms and superworms come in there as well and start eating it as well. So they'll
Yeah.
eat a little bit of it when I do put the calcium in there. But after that, it's mostly the bugs eating it, and then I still feed the bugs off to them as well. If I see like a superworm creeping up trying to grab it, I'll grab the
Yeah.
tongs, grab them, start flinging it, put it in front of their face, and they just take it. They smash it. So either way, they're getting the calcium in.
Yeah, that's true.
But
They're
yeah,
gonna
it
get it one
straightens
way.
out that tail real quick too. Because
Yeah.
I mean, you've
Well,
noticed
that's
that.
always what worries me. Cause like if I see a tail wiggle, I'm like, no, we gotta fix this. Cause they don't take long to start developing that next clutch.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's like six. Well, it's like was it 60 days in between each clutch or something like that?
That's what I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I've not been breeding Chihuahuas as many years. I'm still kind of a little bit new to that game. But I will say
Yeah.
this year, the first clutch was laid. 30 days later, I got the second clutch, but the third clutch was 60 days later. So I went from 1 month
Okay.
in between to 2 months in between. So I don't know which one's a
Okay.
typical cycle. I don't. I really don't.
I
But
know
I know
mine's
she's already
are.
developing a third clutch.
Yeah.
So
Mine is every 60 days. At least that's what I've been experiencing. And now it seems like both because I only have like two pairs. and
That's what I
it
got.
seems like they're both already synced up, so they both are dropping eggs on the same days now.
My main ones haven't started laying yet, and I don't get it. Like, I know they're breeding. I see them locked up all the time. Like, when we had that last rainstorm that came through, I walked in
Yeah,
the new cow room and everybody was locked up. And
that thermal that was a thermogenic pressure or whatever
yeah,
it is.
something
Yeah,
happened. I don't know.
yeah,
They had some kind of
or
pressure going on.
geographic pressure. Yeah, geographic pressure right there. Yeah, they felt that. Like rain's coming, so it's time to get busy. That's every time it rains over here.
Yeah.
All my geckos start locking up. I'm like, damn. And so that's
It
why
don't take long.
that's why they always say like wet and dry seasons. So wet season is usually when they start
Breed season.
trying to breed. So that's when they get heavy misted. And then dry season is usually like the winter time, and I don't mist them as much. I'll say so for the night or for the night lizards. Are you trying to do that as well? Do like a wet season, dry seasons, or some kind of a breeding cycle?
We
I know
do.
you said
I
you
mean,
only
you
have the
could call it
two.
like the wet dry. Like we do. I'm not gonna say like really a dry season because there's not a time that goes by where I'm not keeping the humidity up. There is times where I keep it a little lower, like more to the 50ish area. So I
Yeah,
guess you could call that like their dry season. I'm too paranoid to drop it lower than that. I know some people might
yeah,
will. I got bad luck. So if there's something that's gonna go
yeah,
wrong from pulling the humidity, it's gonna happen to me. So I'm like, I'm gonna play it safe and I'll give them a lower humidity, but around the breeding or I guess you could call it around the time of her starting to build her own babies, we would
yeah,
increase like the water and we increase food because, like I said, we follow kind of the same schedule that we do here with everything else.
yeah,
She'll start the increase in the food. They don't get an increase heat because she's just on UVB. I do take
yeah.
UVB during the winter though. That might be worth noting. I don't provide that during the winter aspect.
Okay.
I use
So
that
pretty
kind of
much
like the
almost
heat
like a
source.
yeah, almost like a
What's,
good rumination.
yeah, kind of like I do my knobtails. Like some knobtails are just a little longer. Though I pull them down on Thanksgiving, put them back at Valentine's Day,
Okay.
and that seemed to work. I gotta say, like, don't fix something that ain't broke. So I've been doing that for
Right.
like
Yeah.
5 years
Yeah.
for knobtails, and I produce every year. So I
Okay.
keep that cycle, and I'm trying to bring that cycle to some of the other ones. But it doesn't work
Yeah.
with everything. Like riverine, the leaf-tailed geckos, riverines. I've got those, and I cannot get the male to spermogenesis. Like she's laid me probably 16 duds this year, 8 clutches,
How cool are you getting them?
maybe 60. I've been told I
Drop them
need to
down
bring them
more.
a lot cooler. I'm real
Yeah. You
paranoid
got to
about the
drop them down
subject.
more. You got to get that. And our boy Stephen Kerbo. So
Yeah,
he literally he would send me like DMs, right, showing me the temp gauge on his thing, and there's like 44 degrees.
yeah, that's what they was telling me to bring them down into the 40s. I was just so paranoid
Yeah.
I was gonna
Yeah.
mess them up being that cold.
Nothing in my house going 40 degrees. Hell,
Thank you. Tell me, it seems scary, right? Like you're gonna put this
Yeah.
animal in there and
But
it's
it was
gonna be
still out hunting too, though. That's the thing. At 40 degrees, it was still hunting.
like Australia's a brutal place. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Well, I
you
mean,
kind of
so
gotta
even
hang in there
out
with the
here,
toughest ones.
yeah, even out here, so you got like rosy boas out in the middle of the snow, right? So these reptiles can take it.
Yeah,
Um, it's a matter of being able to control everything because I mean it's in the control factor already since it's in captivity.
yeah,
So
and
it's
sometimes
all about just
I
monitoring.
think the control element works against us in a sense, because sometimes we try to over control things
Yeah,
versus kind of like in nature, things just happen. And sometimes it'll work out in the benefit, sometimes it
yeah,
don't. Like, for example, like with the new cows and leeches and breeding in the wild, they would be able to get away from each other. You wouldn't have a fatality just because the female didn't like the male or the male didn't like the female. But in captivity, even when you're in a big tank, I mean, they can only go so far to get away.
yeah. That is true. That's very true.
you're right.
And you got some questions, man?
Yeah, I mean, I do, but they're the questions that we don't have the answers for, man. I'm super curious.
Right.
Reading, it blows my mind as to why and what causes it. I mean, it's just super interesting. It's like I said, I don't think anybody has the answers to the questions that I have.
Not yet, at least. Hopefully, one day that we'll get them.
Yeah.
I'm kind of
So
with
for
you on that
your
one there, Anthony.
for
I'm
your
I'm on the
feet
same boat.
or for the adult that you do have, right? How
Yeah,
big of a setup do you got for them?
she's in a 40-gallon right now. I
40
mean,
gallon,
and
okay.
some people will say that that's bigger than most people provide. I think the standard people are using like a 20-gallon or something. To me, the more space you give them, the more they're going to utilize it. Like she
More
does
Yeah,
have, like I said, one spot that she hunkers down in. That's her like home area. But any other time, you'll see her out. You'll see her exploring. You'll see them basking. You'll see them hunting. Like they will utilize the UVB during the brumation, or sorry, gestation period. So that's kind of one of the indicators for us that when she's developing, because we'll see her out mainly on that little log sitting directly under, soaking up
okay.
rays and stuff. And I
Hmm.
don't know. I'm assuming that they're doing that to help with the development of the offspring. That's the only thing that comes to mind.
It would make
Yeah.
sense. I mean, a lot of other species definitely do.
Yeah, so I think that plays a big factor into it. And then also at that point, we will put a heat pad underneath her little area to help with the
Okay.
gestation. So
Nice.
I would like, and it's not a hot. It's just like I think we're maybe setting to like 82. It's not
Yeah.
very, very hot. It's just going a little bit above room temp to keep it a little warm in the den.
Well, they're 100%
Uh
drilled, or they don't climb up anything. Do you give them branches or anything to
Oh yeah,
climb?
she has a terrestrial slash arboreal kinda. So like she's got plenty of like clay and stuff like that she can burrow in. And then she's got the typical soils that hold the plants, and then she's got plenty of climbing aspects. She utilizes just about every bit of it. It's kind of like a monkey, literally, like the prehensile monkey schemes where they're climbing like all over the
yeah.
branches and dropping everywhere. They do a lot of that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So
okay.
for an animal that has no sticky pads, they are very arboreal in a sense of climbing and stuff, and they don't seem to be too clumsy of falling.
Very cool
Uh,
species, man. I mean, I gotta, dude. I just want to go and look them up on the internet. I want to see everything. I just want to read now.
They're very interesting.
And they didn't say anything about all of this stuff. I was seeing pictures, and they were showing what I had thought were like morphs, but apparently, they're different species now.
Yeah.
But I
So the
didn't much.
Smith, it looks like the yellow spot. So imagine if you like, what do they call the word where you flip the color pattern, and it's kind of got like a more of a yellowish brownish color with like the black dotting. That's what the Smith's night lizard looks like. A lot of people, I think, like you was just saying, a lot of people think well, it was a color morph or something with them, but it was just a different species in general.
Huh.
Now, it would be interesting, and that's like we was talking about with the morphine on everything. I'm curious to see where this goes as far as morphine, because to the best of my ability, outside of mourning geckos, I don't believe there's many parthenogenesis animals that have like had morphs.
Yeah.
And even with mourning geckos, I don't think we can consider it a morph. I think it's more like a typing and like locality thing
Yeah.
more than it is a
That's what I
morph.
would think it would be a locality, right? Because you got like a
Yeah.
lion, then where did
But it
well,
would
I
be
don't even know
very
where actually morning
interesting.
vehicles
But
come
then
from.
that would bring even more questions, Anthony, because then we're going to be wanting to know how does albinism get into a parthenogenesis line? That means that the parent has the ability to completely switch the chromosome, or not chromosome,
Yeah.
but something in that bloodline, the
Yeah.
allele.
Yeah. Because it's
Absolutely.
generally it's a literally it's a clone of themselves, right?
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Like, how do you clone yourself? Like, I mean, I get well, we're humans, so we can't. But like, if you was a reptile, like, how do you even go about that process? Like, you just wake up one day and you're just like, you know what? Today is the day to start this. We're gonna start reproducing. We're gonna clone ourselves.
But
Cause like the
yesterday,
Benoys do it, but Benoys like they lay a bunch of dud eggs, and I don't know if it's because a lot of their eggs get ate in the wild, but dude, you'll find eggs and eggs and eggs, and like out of 10 eggs, maybe 2 will hatch. The others are just like decoy eggs. There's no embryos, no nothing.
Hmm.
So I don't know if it's to like throw you off from the actual nest or
Yeah, because
there's a
they're I mean
lot with
those are
parthenogenesis
colony geckos,
animals.
right? The
The
Benoys?
yeah, Benoist like
Yeah, they're
prickly
colony
gecko.
geckos. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. Having a big old pile of eggs, only a couple in there that are really good,
Yeah.
and then you got all these other geckos everywhere because all those other geckos probably help put all those eggs together or whatever.
Mhm.
So the ones that are actually good, you're not gonna get eaten up by whoever comes through.
interesting.
Yeah. So what the hell's well, actually, Actually, I do want to. So for your skunk geckos, right? Oh shit.
Yeah,
Oh, I was about to say, for your skunk geckos, what size? You said you got like a 1.3.
yeah.
Yeah. What size tank do you have those in? You and you don't cohab, right?
Well, I have a
That's what you were saying.
1.3, but I only have the 1.1s in the 18 by 18 by 36.
Gotcha.
My
All
other
right. And
females I've got separated and growing out.
okay.
And when this isn't the only ones I've had. I've had them in the past too. So in the past, when I had multiple adult females, if I didn't want to, I never wanted to really cohab because I was more scared they would eat each other's eggs, you
Okay.
know, as like a competition thing. But the
Yeah.
Yeah.
male, I kind of worked him kind of like a leopard gecko male during breeding season. I would like put him in with
You just
one, take him out,
okay.
leave him by himself for a few days, and then put him in with another one, leave him for a week, take them out, let them, rebuild up, and then put them in with the other one. They're not really
Okay.
monogamous or nothing in a sense. They have no preference. Like, I
So
would say
definitely
like,
not like a toke.
yeah, they're not gonna get mad at another one. They'll pretty much they're open minded.
Okay.
Hmm.
That's you said and so you let those eggs hatch in there and you said you're trying to go ahead and grab these out as quick as possible
That's what I
or
would
do you
recommend. I mean, I know I've got a buddy that breeds and he leaves his in there and he's not really got many issues. I
yeah.
feel like I would be the one that would have the issue. So I like
I
to
think we
pull them
all
out.
feel like that. We all feel like no, I'm not gonna be the one that's gonna do this. Let's
Right.
go ahead and
Now, as far as like being able to get them out kind of quick, it's a little easy in the sense because like I know they're gonna hatch usually between 60 and 80 days as long as the
okay.
ambience are right. I give it a
Yeah.
little bit of flux time because sometimes it gets hotter in here than it does other times. So if we're on one of them spells,
Yeah.
then sorry, I had a nod tail was coming out. He distracted me. I'm sitting in front of I'm sitting in front of the incubator and I just looking over here and these two little baby cinctus done crawled out the eggs.
Nice.
The
That's cool.
I forgot
Yeah,
what I was saying.
I said I just had a intermediate baby hatch out a few days ago. I'm waiting for the other egg to hatch out.
It's been a productive day today. I don't know if like all of them woke up and just chose to pop the eggs, but I'm looking in here at 2, 4, 6, 8 babies right now.
Damn.
Nice. All
So
all synctus?
no, 2 cinctus, some are fat tail, and some are leopards. The only
Nice.
thing that's really not in the common realm on that one is cinctus. But my
Yeah.
season should be starting to like wrap up here. A lot of my eggs are almost done hatching. Now new cows,
Yeah.
they're continuing in, but like all my heated stuff at least they're wrapping up.
Yeah. I think my stropharis are done. I'm about to clean out a
I thought
cage,
so,
move the
but my
male.
my Strophoruses keep dropping random eggs. I cannot get that cycle down on the Ciliaris. So I don't know what it is. Like the one I reproduced them, so I knew I can do it. But like as far as getting them to stay cycle, they swell up like hot air balloons. So they're
Yeah.
gravid, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna keep the lay box ready and keeping it ready. Dude, they will lay right on top of the sand and just
Really?
lay the eggs.
I don't
And
know.
I'm like,
Mine
the lay
would
box is
she would always
10
go into
steps
a
away.
little cup. Say
I've
she would
even
only
took on
drop
one.
duds. Yeah, she would drop duds out in the open, but if it was a good set or a good egg, she would put it inside her
And
lay bin.
that's what everybody else was telling me, and I promise, like I candled these, and there's embryos in the shriveled up eggs. I know they was good. I don't know if maybe there was something wrong with the embryo and she knew it. I don't know, but like I
Yeah.
know from like a holding your flashlight to it, the egg was good at some point before she laid it on that sand. But
Yeah.
in the hopes to like fix that problem, I had Keon over there at Touch the Earth. I was telling you, my buddy, I had him build a bioactive desert build. And it's pretty much the bottom is kind of like all one big lay box area. So now if she
Yeah.
does that, she can't really kill the egg that way.
That's
So
good.
hopefully that'll
Yeah.
that'll help
I've
the
been thinking
season.
about trying to do some kind of a desert bioactive, but man, it just seems like
I'll
too
send you some
much.
photos of how he did this one, and it
Yeah.
seems to be working pretty good. But they're
Yeah.
they're a hard build, like to make
Yeah.
function properly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because like
Just trying to find right isopods for it and
yeah.
stuff that's not going to die off because it's too hot. Like
Then when you
plants,
find the
whatever, I
right
could get some
isopod, the
aloes and stuff like
Strophoruses will
that.
eat them.
Yeah. So no, like right now, I literally put in like a couple of my intermediate ones. I just put a little area with some damp sphagnum moss and some just put some isopods in there, just so they can help me clean up the poop because those things shit like crazy. Like
Oh
there's
yeah, the
just shit.
Ciliaris cages. That's like when I sent you that picture. I'm like, yeah, don't judge me. It's literally cleaning day. I mean, because it's
Yeah, man, they
it's
just
all the time like.
everywhere.
And I'm
Yeah,
hoping that those ones develop the color on them. I don't know. It's hard to say because like I didn't produce the male that I sent you the picture of, but Jay Marks
yeah,
did, and he was telling me like the male didn't have that color until almost into adulthood, and then he
yeah,
started developing that really nice dark black pattern all the way up and down the back.
yeah. So have you noticed that they're kind of slow growers?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
like
I was
molasses,
making sure
man.
I wasn't the only one. Yeah,
No,
because I
it takes
I got a
forever.
silly iris over here that's has to be almost a year, and
I've
that
got a
thing is
wait list
still
for them,
tiny.
and I had a customer that was like, "Hey, are those ready yet?" And I'm like, "No." She's like, "Well, it hatched out like a while ago," and I'm like, "Yeah, but like he's still very tiny."
Yeah,
Because like compared to knobtails, Leo, like all the other ones, they got a good growth cycle to them, but those are
yeah,
definitely one of the slower growers in my opinion
yeah,
so far. Unless maybe we're doing something wrong, we don't know. Somebody can help us out, and they can
yeah.
drop that knowledge on
I was
us.
like,
But
I'm not blasting with heat, but they got like a little 90-degree hot spot up top.
yeah,
Like
like
it's like 90, 92. Not because I
yeah,
have
I was
everything
gonna
on
say I think
dimmers.
mine's 92 or 94 because like it's in a nano PVC build. I have to send you some pictures of them.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
They're like
Like
six
said
by six or something.
my okay, nice. Yeah, I got everything in. Well, it's like most of them are like all the babies are in the deli cups or 2.5 quart bins. Heat tape on the bottom and then UVB on the top. But my grow outs are in like 12 by 12 by 18s and stuff like that. And they got the
Yeah,
UVB on top, the heat on top as well. But
and
I
that's
got them
how a
all. I got
majority of mine are, except for
yeah,
like
and
the
little
the nano
25
ones
watt
I got.
heat.
Jay had told me that that's how he had kept his babies because like this was the first two babies I had produced, so I didn't really have no idea on how to handle the babies.
Yeah,
And I got the guidance from him, and I think the measurements are like 6 by 6 by 10, and it's got a wire mesh thing up top that was built into
yeah,
it to put your UVB and your little heat bulbs. And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what he
yeah.
said. He raised all his in from like birth until about a year, because I mean it's
Okay,
about 10 inches tall, so there's plenty of room for him. And I put
yeah.
some branches and a fake coconut and some sand in the bottom.
Yeah, yeah. What kind of all right? So your vitamins, right? What kind
Yeah.
of what's your regimen for those for your night lizards and for your skunk geckos?
So I use the other than like the skunks with the Pangea, but outside of that, I use a osteoform and vionate mixture that I use for the leopard geckos. I call it
Okay.
an old school recipe. I don't know, it's been around
Yeah,
for
it
a
is.
while.
Yeah, yeah. You get the
So
big old
some
buckets, start
people,
mixing it up.
I'm not gonna lie, some people are probably not gonna like that recipe. I know there's a lot of riffraff. Some people do, some people don't. All I can say is I've been using it for the last 8 years and I've not had an issue with it. It's
Yeah,
like one of those don't fix something that ain't broke
Yeah.
kind of things. If I
what's
was
your
having
ratio for that?
issues, the ratio I use is one osteo to two bionate.
Okay,
So, and then
nice.
sometimes if I feel like there's just a little too, sometimes I'll add. I'll have to message just Rapashi something, but it's like a green calcium color. I think it's vitamin A plus or something like that. I'll have to look it
Oh,
up.
oh, with the has a dart frog on it.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
Yeah, I
it.
know what you're talking about.
I
Yeah,
use
the
five
vitamin A.
percent of that and then 3% bee pollen, and
Okay,
that's my mixture.
nice. And that goes for all your animals.
That goes to everything.
All right. Cool. So,
I
Hmm.
haven't
so
had no issues with it. Now, well, I use the same calcium, but like with some species, I guess it's worth noting that's a strong supplement. So
mhm,
you don't want to over calcium your
yeah.
animals. So I will say like it is
So
important to have some kind of knowledge base on how the stuff like to apply it.
yeah,
Because if you give, like, for example, cat geckos, I work with them. If you give them nothing but like that osteobionate for all their feedings, you're going to have issues relatively quickly because they're going to OD on calcium.
okay.
So it is worth knowing what species you're giving it to and how to like apply it to that species.
Is this calcium with D3 or calcium without?
It's with D3, and I also make it
Oh,
without, so I've got both types.
you got both. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still follow the UVB non-UVB rule. I just don't see the point in going multiple brands of calciums, and because like I've tried
Yeah.
Mineral, I've tried Zoo Meds, like I've tried the Flukers. I just wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And like my
Yeah.
mentors used Mineral and stuff, so I'm not saying they're bad calciums. It just wasn't working for me. It was
Yeah.
molding too quickly in bins and stuff, so I was like, no, it's not doing good in humidity. So
Okay.
that's kind of what I
Yeah.
was
Yeah. I
looking
mean, you always
for,
got to
was a
worry
good
about that stuff,
calcium
where you
source.
live at. So,
Do
because
I?
you live in North Carolina, right?
Yeah, I'm in North Carolina.
Yeah. So you got to kind of worry about that humidity with stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Like with me, I live in a dry desert, so humidity is damn near non-existent.
That's like my
Unless I
buddy. He's
create
in
it.
Vegas, and like we'll be talking, and he does plumbing too, and I do plumbing. He's like, dude, it's so hot today, and I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, but their hot is like a little higher in the temperature, but it's a dry heat, and
Yeah.
we got
Like
like the
me.
humid heat. So I've never
Yeah.
been in dry heat, so I can't really explain how that feels. But I know everybody tells me
It's
that.
like getting hit in the face with a blow dryer. For real. Like if the wind's blowing, man, it's like I've been to both. I lived in Texas for a while, and so I live here. Texas is like, man, it's just like you're constantly sweating. Like, man, that's why you always see people walking around with like little hand towels and stuff so they wipe their face off. Because I'm like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
really, yeah, it's
it's
just
like that out
feels
there.
all that moisture and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But out here, completely dry. You're wiping your sweat off, but man, you about to get a sunburn with it too. Yeah, Ant was like, man, how hot is it there today? I was like, dude, it's 110. He's
Yeah,
like,
no, it was. I
damn.
think at our hottest point today down here it was like 92, 94.
It's
Yeah,
around
see,
4
Yeah,
degrees.
it wasn't
yeah,
too bad.
yeah.
That was
Like I
like
said,
yesterday. I
y'all.
think we was like 95, 96. Because I specifically remember waiting until that night to go catfishing because I didn't want to deal with the heat. I was like, nah, I'll just go down there with a flashlight.
Yeah, for real.
It seemed a lot better than going through and having to deal with the heat.
Yeah. Yeah, you got anything, man?
No, I think he answered just about everything that I could ask. Again, like I said, other than the unknowns. I mean, I got more of an interest out of this than I have questions. I guess like there's a
Yeah.
lot that I know that I'm curious about. I mean, this probably sparked my interest, this species, more than any other guest we've had. I've wanted to know more about this. I mean, this is super interesting, man. Super interesting species,
Are
man.
the,
Collection, man.
so
I
yeah,
appreciate it. Yeah, I think
for
there's
those
a
night
lot
lizards.
to come from the yellow spot still, and the good news, like for me at least, like as far as knowledge base goes with them, I am working with the species, but I have no intentions on releasing any to the public for probably the next 7 to 8 years. While we're just gonna keep them and work and study everything on them.
Go.
There you go.
Now, I mean, I'm not gonna say like once we get some babies popping off, if other people want to work with them and keep notes, kind of like I've got with Touch the Earth Exotics going on, I'm more than open minded to things like that because the more minds we get working on it, the more we're gonna figure out.
Oh, for
You know?
sure, definitely.
But like that's
Always
one of the
comparing
other
notes.
projects that I started, and I was like, this is gonna be a passion project for me, so I really don't. I don't want to say I don't care if it makes, its own self back. I'm here to have those for fun. Same thing with skunk geckos. I'm not in it to produce a bunch of really nice specimens. I want to learn what I can about them and enjoy the time with them.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. So, are they still catching these things in the wild? They're still bringing these in from the wild? These
Unfortunately. And
really?
I say unfortunately, not because everything's got to start from there. Again, I get that aspect. That's where we all get them from, but it's
Hmm.
hurting the populations, and that's one reason that we don't have many wild information on them because it's kind of hard to study them. Because if they go out, like I said, these guys don't travel far from their original resting spot. So you go out there and you're studying, you publish that information. Now these poachers / hunters, smugglers, they're going to go right to that spot and they're going to collect your studies because they're going to still be there. And I think that's led to a lot of issues, and then there's a lot of habitat issues going on down there in Mexico with where they're from. You got a lot of habitat loss, a lot of building,
Mm,
groundbreaking constructions going on, which for an animal that burrows could be detrimental, but it could also be in their favor. In the next 50 years, maybe they're going to be under houses, they'll be out of sight, and they'll be able to start breeding more secretly because they're very
yeah,
discreet animals anyway. But the problem is like getting to that point to where, you're not getting destroyed during pipes getting laid in the ground and trees and everything being removed. There's a lot that's going to go on. I feel like that's going to be an even bigger problem to the species.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. Everything you said, their habits and everything that I've been listening to, it almost make it seems like it would be super hard to find them. Yet these people are bringing them in and know exactly where to go. I wonder what they know that they're not telling us. I mean, these poachers or
Well, I
collectors,
think it's
oh,
one of those, another one of the things, like if we could go there, like, and actually just talk with the people that are living around these animals, we would figure out a lot more about them,
yeah,
you know? Because, I mean, I think it's like, with the African fat tails, you can go there and they got guides that'll bring you right out to these termite dunes and show you fat tail
Yeah.
dens and stuff. And I got a feeling that it's like that everywhere. And a lot of the, people are going, or they're having these people mail them back over. Because I think for us, like when we look at it, we're like, well, you're killing the population. Well, I think down there it's a poverty thing where they're just doing what they got to do to survive. So you got a person here with a lot of money that's like, hey, man, if you'll go out there and snatch these up, we'll send you this money. In their head,
Yeah.
they're like, well, look, we're going to use our own resources around here to make this money for a living. So I don't think they understand the impact that it's having. They're just trying to survive, which in return, it creates a lot of issues. But I mean, that's kind of, I mean, that's where mine came from. I'm not going to lie. Mine was imported wild caughts, but that's the only way we're going to get them breeding. But I know like Paul Shore's breeding his. So we are in cahoots, and he's also in North Carolina. So that helps me because we could trade notes. But
Nice.
I feel like, more people breeding these guys will help because I hate to say it, but I see the wild population being in trouble if things continue to proceed the way they are. Because I think right now they're at least concerned, but I don't know how long that's going to be a thing. But also, who knows the last time that somebody went out and did a population count on these guys, you know,
Okay.
or how they even get that population number to know.
right. Well, they're doing it with the Abronia, right, Jay? I mean, there's somehow
Yeah.
the Abronia has caught these guys' attention. I mean, to me, this is a very similar thing here. The way that's
Because our brony are live bearing.
everything
Yeah.
that's happening or happened to the Abronia appears to be happening with them, except for the
So
population.
I worked with our bronias for a year or so, and I never had like significant luck like with the species. But I will say for me, it was a very challenging species to keep.
That's what I keep hearing.
Well, I mean, I think it's got a lot to do with the elevation in the wild, so like I was running fans on mine, we had misters going, and it still was not, like the humidity wasn't the issue. But I'm not gonna lie to you, something was an issue. It wasn't the animal. It was 100% something that was, in the care. That was kind of why we stepped out of that project. I didn't see it being fair to the animals.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
That's why
we
I say,
just.
everybody's good at something. Our brawny, it just isn't one of the ones I was good at.
Yeah. Yeah, we just a few weeks ago talked to some people about Abronias on here. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they
I
kind
would
of.
love to. I mean, some people are really good with them, and I think
Yeah.
there's going to be
Yeah.
a lot of great things to come out of the Arbronias, but I think it's going to take a lot of great minds to do it. It's not going to be
Oh,
like
definitely.
everything
Yeah, it's
else.
gonna take a collective to
Yeah,
figure them
100%.
out. That's what I think.
But once they figure it out, I mean, that info, it's got to go a long way,
Yeah. I mean, because you got a guy down there in North Carolina, Brian Susan.
Yeah,
He does
Brian's down
he
here.
does
He's
the
one of the
littoral
ones I got
chillas.
one of the leaf tails from.
Yeah, yeah, he does the leaf tails. He does the
He does
strophirs. He
a bunch
does
of really nice stuff.
chewies, lychees, guards, some cave
He's got the
geckos.
Orientalis also, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he's dipping in a couple different things, and then those tree monitors too.
Yeah. The tree monitors are really cool. I don't know, that's a lot of dedication for space and time,
Yeah,
You got to be
I can't do
prepared
that.
for those. It's not
No,
like a gecko we can put in a tub. And,
no,
when we're breeding them or whatever, or put them in a 12 by 12 by 18, you're going
yeah.
to have a pretty big
You have to go
setup.
with those mini monitors, like was
Ackies or kings.
yeah, King Norum. Yeah, those little pygmy monitors, like this big.
Well, that's what the
Yeah,
yellow spots remind me of. Like, is they just remind me of a monitor lizard from the way they act and the way they
yeah.
do stuff. And honestly, I wonder a lot of times was they mislabeled. Maybe
Well, they
it should
kind
have
of
been the mini monitor.
almost look like well, they kind of remind me of like the Borneo earless monitor.
Hmm.
They just like the texture of them and everything like
Oh,
that.
and they've got a shovel triangular shaped head, and even the scale structure. Like when I send you some of these macro shots, it's hard to explain, but like you can see at the neck, it's like a rough skin with like the
Yeah,
lumps, and then it just transitions in the big, flat, smooth, cylindrical scales that go down the snout, and it goes into
yeah,
like a beak shape near the nose. So like
yeah,
their whole body like design is kind of weird. It's almost like there was a plan for it. I mean, it does something. It's just hard to put together what exactly they're using
yeah.
all those aspects for.
Well, I
And they
mean,
can
yeah,
burrow really good. So I mean, maybe I know part of it's for burrowing. They're really
yeah,
talented at that. They can disappear on you quick,
yeah.
and they're super fast. Like their ability to zoom is like on level with Shield Telegama. Like they
Really?
can get up and get gone.
Damn. I didn't even know the shield tails would move fast either. I've
Yeah,
seen
they
them in a
get the
couple pet
zooms.
stores. I just never really mess with them too much.
I haven't been working with them too long. I am working with them now though.
Really? Man,
So.
see, you keep on naming stuff. You're like, oh man, I'm working with this
That's why
now. I'm
I
working
know
with
I'm
this too.
forgetting stuff because like I'll go through and I'll be looking at stuff and I'm like, I know I forgot about you. Like I
Yeah,
don't forget to do them. It's like when you're talking about them, though, you've got so many of them. It's hard to remember
yeah.
everything you're working with
Oh yeah,
because like
trust
I
me.
always remember
Yep.
my favorites of the groups, you know. So
Yeah.
What
So
are
before we get off, I do have. Oh, what are your biggest failures from both these species? What have been your biggest failures, and what have you really learned from those?
I would say the biggest failure would be like with the yellow spots would have been the babies. The first round learning that you can't just put them in bioactive bins and run it like you do the adults because your babies will die. They'll, they'll
Okay.
it'll end bad on you. With skunks, I would say I can't really say I've had a big fail there. Other like when the females will eat the eggs, I would say that's probably like the worst loss you get out of them. I've been
Yeah.
really fortunate with mine that they haven't been a pain to work with like some people's
Okay.
have been. The success wise with both of them, I would say like would be the reproduction, like to be able to see it pay off in the end.
Yeah.
That's what it would be the best success for them.
Okay.
And then
Well, so for your
yellow spot would be like actually being able to hold the female. Like she'll let you hold her when she's not grabbed, which is a big
okay.
accomplishment for that species because they're very timid. They don't trust people. So to get
Okay.
them to come out and let you interact with them is very rare. Same
Yeah.
thing with the skunk geckos. My skunk geckos will let me grab them up, and to me, that's a unique thing. They don't let you do a lot, which I can do the
Yeah.
same thing with my grandis. My Phelsuma grandis will let me pick them up. So
Nice.
I
Yeah.
think food is
That's
the way to their heart.
work. Yeah. It's building that trust relationship with them.
Yeah, the
you?
trust helps a lot, and I use the
Yeah.
food mainly like with the grandis and all the Pangea eaters. I just put the Pangea on my arm because they'll come
Yeah.
to eat it, and then they'll eventually
Okay.
associate you with food.
Yeah. There
So
you go.
that's how I've done that.
Uh, so for the geckos, and maybe a couple tips for people to be successful with them.
I would say, pick species you really like to work with. That way the goods are great and the bads aren't that bad because it's the hobby. You're going to get some bads here and there.
Yeah.
Don't try to grow too big. That would be like the best advice I can give to people because like a lot of times we think bigger is better, but I don't think bigger is always better. I think quality over quantity should be the goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's how people get burnt out.
Yeah, yeah, because like I mean, I did it. I jumped that route, and 2 years ago, I think we was sitting at like 400 or 500 geckos. It's just too much. You
Yeah.
get to a
And
point,
on
and
top of a
like
full time
I know
job too.
it's a big number, and it sounds crazy, right? But like, what got me, and here's a good advice: don't think that females will just lay a few eggs, because the first time we got serious into it, like we had like 30 females that bred, and everybody dropped like 10 eggs. So
Yeah.
if you just average 5 clutches a female, your babies stack up quicker than you realize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because how many geckos you got, man?
Man, look, too many.
I honestly have quit counting.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm probably the only one here that actually knows the number I actually have.
How many do you got?
Oh shit! I only got like probably like 15 or 16.
Well,
So
that's
like
good. I don't
Yeah,
want
I mean, I'm focused on certain things,
to. And that's good
and
though. Like you've got it to where you can focus on exactly what you want to do.
yeah, like I
And
said,
I
my
know,
my biggest focus is gonna be Ceratodactylus next year, and then these Homophilus fasciatus. That's gonna be probably two of my biggest focuses. Like I said, my Chihuahuas, they'll keep on breeding. I'll keep on producing some eggs out of them. Uh, and Strophares, like I said, next year I'm probably gonna give my intermediates that year off because I
yeah,
don't need to make a bunch of intermediates. Like I said, they're a niche gecko. Not a lot of people know what they are. I don't need to produce a ton of them,
yeah.
right?
If I
You
had to
know, I
rough
mean,
guess it, I don't know. I think breeder wise, I probably got maybe like 200 breeders between like all species. But mainly in Leos, I've been breeding the longest, so I've got so many holdbacks from every year that I've held
yeah,
back that's, came along with them. So a majority of them are Leo stuff. But like I tell everybody every year, you'll hear me say, "Oh, I'm gonna slow down on Leos this year. I'm gonna slow down on Leos this year," and I'll always find that one project that I can't let go, like magmas or
yeah,
my white and yellow trimpers. I don't know. It's hard because like that's my roots, So that's like really where I started was the Leos. For me to
yeah,
cut some of them out, it kind of like I don't know. I just can't do it. I always say I'm gonna do it, but then I never can do it.
yeah. Like, I mean, I guess depends on the space too. I mean, I live in a 2 bedroom apartment, so I got
Yeah,
very little
well,
space. So I gotta,
spacing is a thing that I will say people got to count into too. But also, I guess
yeah,
like depending on your species, like Leos are usually on racks, so
yeah,
you're not taking up a whole lot of space. My littlest one, she'll be 7 this year, and she told me she wanted to try breeding the geckos this year. She's got
nice.
in her bedroom, she's got her own 20 little leopard geckos in a rack, and she's got a sea serpent hot box in there that she puts her eggs in.
That's
Very,
So
dope.
she's
very.
got her little setup going, and she says she wants to try snakes this year, so I'm debating letting her try the snakes. I personally really like snakes, and
Yeah,
that's what got me into the hobby. But I've never had the best luck trying to breed snakes. When I experienced gecko breeding, and I was like, oh, I can do this. I was like, I guess that's where I stuck to, and
well,
then
shit, I mean,
I kind of never looked back. And now she's wanting
yeah.
to look back, so I'm like, well, who would I
Well,
be to
father
tell
daughter
her no? Because
project.
that's how I got here. So if I tell her she can't
Yeah,
have snakes, I'm gonna have another me in another 12
yeah.
years.
There you go.
Well, I mean, just think of it as a father daughter project. So,
Yeah,
good, spend some time with each other. Get her going on this. Get those mind juices flowing, and
I think
let
it's
her
fun
start running with it.
to keep them involved with it young like this because,
Oh yeah,
like, I'm sure like if when you go out to the shows, you see it all the time. Like some kids are just terrified of
yeah,
reptiles. I mean, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with being scared. Everybody's got their own fears, but a lot of the fears are unlogical. They haven't had a reason to really have fear. They're just following their parents' suit.
Hmm.
Because, like,
yeah. That's
for
all it
example,
is.
if my wife, she tells my daughter, I don't like that one, my daughter's probably not going to like that one either. She's going to
Yeah,
follow her mom's vibe. So,
yeah. You're not born with fear. You're taught fear.
correct,
So
100%.
yeah, that's what we always say to people, especially like people are like, I'm scared of snakes. Why are you scared of snakes? I don't
Right.
know. I'm just am. It's probably because your parents taught you that you were scared of snakes, and their parents probably taught them they were scared of snakes. That's all it
Yeah.
is.
The only rational fear I ever had was I was scared of spiders for a while, but I never had that fear until I got bit by a black widow. I was working with my
Oh,
dad doing pallets, and I put my hand in a pallet,
ouch.
and I got bit on my pinky. And let me just tell you, no.
Hmm.
My pinky was bigger than my thumb. Never again.
Damn.
But I did overcome that fear. I'm not scared of them anymore. I can. It wasn't
Oh
like a
yeah, I'm
crazy
I'm
fear
moving
either.
slowly towards that. Like I
Use
was like,
tarantulas is what I did. I just
yeah.
went and bought
Well,
tarantulas.
I said I'm not afraid of them. I have a healthy respect for them. Like I don't bother you, you don't bother me. We're cool.
Correct.
Uh, no, my girl now, she's like, she's got her a little jumping spider. I was like, all right, we could baby
Okay.
steps. That's that's
Those are
perfect.
cool. I can't even knock that. I've literally
Yeah,
got jumping spiders that I keep and breed, and I have a clutch of eggs that I'm incubating
really.
now. So
Okay,
hopefully
I
those
might
will
have to
be
talk to you
guys.
after this one because like that's something she wants to. She's thinking about. She wants to do. She's like, I want to breed these jumping spiders. I was like, all right.
They're really
learn some
fun. It's
shit.
not hard.
Yeah,
And like most spiders, you might lose one or the other one during the breeding, but typically with
yeah,
jumpers, they don't really try to go for each other like that.
yeah,
Super popular right now, man. Little
yep.
They
rat.
are.
I mean, they're popular. They're pretty cheap. You can have a bunch of them because they don't take up a
Mhm.
lot of space, and
No,
they're
like
like,
I
and people
use
love them. They're
like a
adorable.
test tube with caps on each end. I just put
Yeah.
the females in there, and they'll go to one side and lay their eggs, and they chill in there. You can even raise the babies in there.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't
I'm definitely
like.
have
I
to
know
pick your
some
brain on
people
that
get
one.
crazy with it. I kind of just let nature take its course. I'll let the eggs hatch, and then I'll wait till they come out of their first stages, and however many make it out of that point, it's however many I'm going to raise up. I know some
Okay.
people will separate them out and keep all of them. I'm just
That,
that's a lot of work, and you're going to crush some of
yeah,
them. I
like
just let them.
how many eggs do they lay in that web?
I can't count them. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's a bunch.
Yeah.
I can zoom in.
I've seen
It's a bunch of little pink dots in there.
yeah, I've seen what was it, a deadly tarantula girl. She had one of them and she opened it was like over 1,000 egg
Hmm.
there's 1,000 spiders in the egg sac. I was like, holy shit.
I know
Yeah.
when I told my wife that the spider had laid eggs, she's not my best friend. She doesn't understand why we need a bunch of little spiders,
Keep the roaches away.
right? Well, I breed
Keep
those
all the
too.
bugs away.
We breed hissers, so
There you go.
she don't
Dang, see,
like
you got
those
a
neither.
whole nice operation over there, man. For real.
Well, I had some bearded dragons that I had bred, and I got tired of buying all the food, and I was like, look, I'm gonna go back to breeding some long enough to get rid of these dragon babies, and because my daughter talked me into breeding the bearded dragons one more year, and I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I'll do it because I didn't want to breed them no more. I'd done it for a few years in the past, and it's just a lot of work. You got to have a lot of space, a
Yeah.
lot of UVB, a lot of heat lights. But
Yeah.
she's like, come on,
Definitely.
Dad. So I let her do it one time, and we had 17 this year, and I
Oh
think I've got
man.
like 3 left, but I'm almost done. I told her, I
Man.
said, no, no more, no more, no more
Yeah,
dragons.
that's the one I told her no. I was like, no, we're not finna breed these because they drop like almost 20
Yeah,
eggs or something. I'm
I
like,
got
I'm not
lucky.
finna
She
try to deal
didn't
with
double
this.
clutch, but she laid a clutch of 22 eggs, and out of 22, 17 hatched.
Good lord. Yeah, no, I can't do that.
Yeah, it adds
That's
up.
way too
Fucking thick out
too
of my
much room.
man.
Oh, that ain't good. You better be
Tick out of
careful with
where?
those.
I just pulled it out of my leg.
God damam.
Yeah,
That what
I
happens. You go
got
to the woods.
hospitalized by a tick with Rocky Mountain spotted fever one time.
Wait,
And
Oh
Lyme.
man,
My brother got Lyme disease, man.
well,
Fuck.
my
that's
oldest
crazy.
brother right now is suffering with Lone Star disease from a tick bite.
Ugh.
He can't eat no red meat, no nothing. He has to eat
Oh
like
man,
fish and certain stuff.
Reading about that, man.
that's crazy.
'Cause I told him, I said, I hate to be him because I eat too much red meat to get Lone Star.
For
Too.
real.
I also read that
Uh,
it's 72 hours tick being in you for them to pass any transmit any bacteria. They need to be in you for about 72 hours. This
I
motherfucker
was
ain't.
a little kid when I got Rocky Mountain. I was probably in like 3rd grade elementary school.
yeah. All right. So all right, we coming up on the end. Because I know I said we'll keep it around 90 minutes or so. Let you. I know you got some things you gotta go do. I'm
I mean,
sure,
yeah,
Ant, you
we're
gotta go.
good right now. I mean, if y'all want to go on for a few more, we can.
Okay, definitely. Shit, what I was about to say then. I said you got like what you said like 8. So let me get you. What's your top 5 of your collection right now? What's your top 5, and what are you hoping to try to get new in the future?
So I'd say like top 5 right now for me. I'd say number 1 for me is going to be the Polios, just because
Okay.
I'm really excited for them. And then I would go Sherforis. I love my Sherforises.
Yeah.
It's a hard game to pick. I feel like I feel like I'm gonna make the other ones mad if I don't choose them. Um, Knobtails are definitely a next one in there. Chihuahuas, and who's gonna be my last one? I have to say probably my leopard geckos.
There you go. OGs.
Yeah,
You got,
they
gotta
hang
have.
in.
So you
I
looking
always like. I love
at
it when
trying
I
to get some
visit
different
those.
projects?
It never fails. I always get like one person every station. They're like, "Oh, those are leopard geckos." I'm like, "Yes, yes, they are. They still exist. They're still here."
Yeah.
People
Didn't
like,
they
what do
just
they
come
do?
out
She's
with like
like,
some
that's
new morphs or
office
something?
seed. Do what? Do what?
I said, didn't they come out with like a have like a new morph come out or something? Like not
Um,
too long ago?
honestly, I quit tracking it after Cypher
Okay.
got released because now, in my opinion, and I'm probably gonna get frowned on for this, but they just turning everything into a morph and it's getting stupid.
Of
Like,
course. No.
you
I mean
know,
they keep on trying to keep up with the Joneses with that stuff, right?
and you've
Oh
got people that are buying lines, like they might reach out to, one part you and buy a line, or reach out to Anthony and buy a line. They're gonna breed it together for 2 years, and now it's their line. Like they're just
yeah.
getting ridiculous with it. So, like the last thing that I would consider a true morph that was released that I know about was Cypher,
Was
and
that John Scarborough?
even to an extent,
Okay.
in my opinion, the Cypher kind of resembles reverse striping a lot. So it's kind of
Hmm.
like it was piggybacked off another morph, and I could be wrong. I never really studied that. I don't own any ciphers. I refuse to like get crazy into them like that.
Yeah.
Um, I think the last like real serious stuff I got into was probably the clown lines, and I got those from a buddy of mine that got them from Bubba.
Okay. Yeah,
And I've
Bubba got
got
some
red
actually
diamond
decent
lines.
leopard
Like I've
geckos.
got a lot of the newer lines and stuff. I think they're getting a little crazy with it. But it seems
I
like a
think they
lot
all
of
are.
them are going that way. So
Yeah. No, it's just keeping up with everything. That's all it is. It's
yeah.
ball
Well, and that's
pythons
like, the more
continually having
people
new
that are breeding them
genes.
too, the more stuff starts popping out of everything.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been
But
breeding those for what, like 40, 50 years now or something like that? Maybe even
yeah,
60? Yeah.
I know, like
You,
they've been
This
around for a long time.
flood
yeah.
is
So
losing popularity, man. It's not like they're not losing traction. I mean,
No,
no,
I mean, because they're
well,
still an easy gecko to take care of, and
they
they
are.
have, and they got bright colors. That's going to attract people.
That's what it is. It's the colors, because like I'll tell you every year, like the first ones I sell out of are the really really bright ones. And
Hmm.
it's always one of those geckos too. Like they'll come to your table and they'll look at it. I think a lot of people misconstrue Leos because they're not wild caught, but you still see flippers with them at every show, like
Yeah.
25, $30. And then they'll come to your
Yeah.
table and oh, why is it 300 or why is it this? And you're like, well, it's a little different than that one over there. And like
Yeah.
physically, sometimes babies look identical. Like an albino grows into its color, especially like the blood sun glows. So when you're looking at like a juvenile version, you're like, oh, well, this gecko is still yellow, just like that gecko. But they're not. If you don't own leopard geckos and I tell you that gecko is going to turn a bright orange in 6 months, you're probably going to call me a liar because you're going to be like, no, it's solid yellow right now. If you don't understand reptiles, you're not going to believe it. So it makes it a little
Yeah.
challenging sometimes. But
Yeah.
I would prefer like bright colors, and I like a lot of my project time I spent working on taking white and yellow and mixing it with Mac Snow and Tangerine Trimper to try to like produce the like creamsicle look.
Okay.
I'm still working on that project here and there. So I did do
Yeah. I
some more
think like
parents for
you
that.
said about the coloring. Deal with that with Chihuahuas too, because they go through a
Yeah.
couple of different color change phase. Like I've been thinking about like literally probably holding back my Chihuahuas until they start developing more colors, and
Yeah.
then it's just less stuff you got to explain to customers too as well.
Oh,
Because
100%.
they're like, well, these don't look like the parents. I was like, they're gonna go through these color
You
phases.
gotta love the new
No,
Caledonia market, man. Like
yeah,
I love the geckos, but like sometimes the customers are a whole different breed. You
yeah,
better have the grandparent photos, the grandparent photos.
yeah, yeah. They want that lineage.
They all about that lineage. They're gonna come at you
Yeah,
with a hammer for that lineage. You better have it
yeah,
ready.
makes no sense. What the fuck does it really, really, really matter?
Yeah.
If the parent is this, and this, but the animal
If
is
there
clear.
was a bunch of hetero genes, I would understand it, like a little more. Like I know it's important to know where your stuff's coming from. I'm not saying that, but like at some point you gotta like if it's not het for like hidden genes like Leo's got, I don't see what the grandparents and everything else really matters to that extent. But
There's a couple
yeah.
I don't
going,
know.
as a marketing angle.
Oh
Oh yeah,
yeah, hundred
yeah.
percent.
So let me ask you. So do you vend shows right now?
Yeah, yeah. I was actually
Yeah.
supposed to did Winchester yesterday, but apparently the motherboard on the air unit fried Thursday,
Oh,
so they
damn.
canceled the show. That way we wouldn't, risk our geckos out there. But
Yeah.
I think I'm
So
booked in Greenville. I think it's my next one. I'm going down to Greenville. But I used
okay.
to do all the North Carolina shows, and I'm not going to
Okay.
touch base on exactly what the issues was, but I did pull out of some of the shows from North Carolina just because I didn't agree with what was happening there. So,
Gotcha.
and I started moving to some of the other states like South Carolina, Virginia, and I'm still doing shows here. It's just with new promoters and than what I
Gotcha.
was before. And then
So
like
what does your
North
setup
Carolina,
look
a
like?
lot of it's growed here. Like a lot of people moved to the state that wasn't here before, like vendor wise. So
Okay.
like a lot of our big shows, they changed our booking systems, like all this pre-booking, and as you've seen trying to log in here, I do not do good with technology. So needless to say, who lost their table spots on email signups was this guy. So
That's all good.
I am gonna
So
be
what is
going and
your
doing a few of them.
yeah? What's your vendor? What's your table setup like? Because I'm new to it. I just
So
started. I literally did my first show this past month,
I've
and
adapted over the years. So like 6 years ago, it was just leopard geckos on the table, and that did good for a while. And then I realized not everybody wants a leopard gecko,
hmm
and to me, it wasn't really about making a sell at the show, but you ever like when you're there, if you're not the one selling something, you kind of feel like you failed at that show. Like you at least
hmm
want to have people acknowledging your animals, to
yeah,
make you feel somewhat successful about your day.
Hmm.
So I decided diversity was where I needed to go. And I tried in adding in more species of animals. And that was really a trigger for me because I got more people stopping and talking and I could have conversations. So the day went by quicker at shows. When my wife and my little girl started vending, my daughter had this thing where she wanted to run around like everywhere that had toys and she wanted a toy. So like eventually we started doing that. My wife and them would come, and my wife she opened up a retail business where she like buys and sells Amazon stuff. So
okay,
on occasion, if my animal numbers are lower than where I want them for the year, and I can't fill all my displays, then she'll come out and like we'll use some kid toys and stuff like that to like fill out an empty table. But like
okay,
my best advice for shows would be like as the market has changed to where it's going, I think that table fillers are a very big key point to shows. Because
yeah,
shows aren't necessarily about making your money, right? But you don't want to go spend $300 to vend a show and lose $300 vending a show. You at least want to be even. So, like, if I
yeah,
can bring enough, like, toys, stickers, stuff like that, or little stuff that will add up to, like, a table cost to just break yourself even at the end of the day, that's a good way to go. Because I've
yeah.
noticed from North Carolina, at least down here, a lot of people do not want to come into a reptile show and spend $300. But I also know, like, in Vegas, where my buddy is, me and him talk, they're completely different markets, like East to West Coast markets. Like, people down here are really tight, and I guess, like, out there, people spend a little more money. I'm not sure. 'Cause, like, I know the average down here on the reptile shows for, like, geckos, I typically bring, like, $150 to $200 geckos to my shows. Because it seems like usually outside of that, I'm kind of just stressing my animals out for no reason.
Yeah.
Good to know that. It's good that you pay that much attention to the market and your customers. I guess your
Yeah.
local. You
I feel like, well, if
Definitely.
you can't, you got to get really good at reading them in order to like stay in here a while. I feel like that's why a lot of people come in and leave so quick in the hobby. It's like they jump in with this "I'm going to get rich quick" scheme, and then there's no one that I know of at least getting rich in the reptile hobby.
Nah. No, I mean, you got your few people, but
I mean, you
everybody's
got
following
people.
those people.
Yeah, you got
That's
people
all it
that like
is.
appear really, and like, but I think another question is, are they really making it like that in the hobby, or are they really good at
Are they
putting on
really
a
that
face to the
successful?
hobby?
That's yeah,
Because like you
yeah.
can put on a face and be as nice and reputable, but still be in a very bunch of debt that
Oh yeah.
is what got you there.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like that too.
know,
So
Like just
like
drop
me,
all
like
this
I know
money.
I've got my own debts that I'm paying double dues on, but it's not like I would recommend. It's not more than you can handle debts, but like I feel
Yeah.
like some people will like dig themselves a really big hole to put up
Oh
a
yeah.
really nice face.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
when I
yeah.
first got
I
into the
know they
hobby,
used to
I'm
do it
not
back
gonna
in the
lie, I was like,
day.
oh, I'm gonna have a pet store and the whole 9 yards. And I called the county about opening the pet store, and I was like, okay. So I still want to do it, but now that I know, like I've got a few more loopholes I still need to jump through before I'm ready to try to go that route. And then, like, once you go that route, you don't have the luxury of, like, with the LLC, like, you don't have to really be that serious. You can do it at your own pace. But once you have a
Yeah.
brick and mortar, that rent's due every month. That power bill's due
Right.
every month. So now you're having to, like, transition from a passion to an actual
To
work.
actual business. Yeah.
Yeah. What is
Oh
hissing?
shit. Yeah,
I
definitely.
just hear a
Like you said,
random hissing noise. I'm like, I'm trying to figure out what it is.
yeah, I definitely feel that on the table stuff. Like I said, I just did my first one this month, and I was like, just like you had like little things on there. Like Ann was telling me, he's like, get these silicone bottle caps. So I bought a pack of silicone bottle caps. It was like 108 of them in a package, and I sold those for $1 a piece. And so, like those Pangea ones, they're like $5 for a little one. I'm like, no, we do this for $1.
Oh,
So
yeah.
same thing with I had these creature care cards. So if you did buy a gecko, you got a card with it that shows you how to take care of your gecko. And I think
Yeah,
little
like the
things like
creature care
that.
cards.
What's that?
Yeah, like, and another thing, like, I feel like if you provide them with a creature care card, it also helps you because you don't have to worry about 101 questions immediately after the person gets back home. Because, like,
Yeah.
when you're at a reptile show, you're both excited, you're talking. By the time you get home, half of that information's already been forgotten.
Oh yeah. All that adrenaline and everything. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh my god. Yeah. I literally just had that too. It's someone bought a Chihuahua. And not even I was like, here's a card, boom, boom, boom. And next thing you know, she had all these questions afterwards. I was like, all right, hold on, let's just answer these questions real quick.
Yeah,
But
because,
I do understand that.
well, it's not like me. I can get something, and then I'll have the question, in my head, and then I'll forget it while we're talking. And then 2, 3 days later, I'm like, oh, yeah, I never asked this question. And I'll
Yeah.
be, like, reaching out to somebody.
Yeah.
But, like, I think, like, the hobby also, like, everybody's a little more accepting now than we was 8 years ago. Like, nobody, when I first got in, it was hard to find somebody to teach me the stuff. Like, I say I got lucky finding Justin, because, like, most people, when I went to them for advice, would kind of, like, gatekeep. Or they would give you a little bit, but not really the full truth of the whole scenario.
Yeah.
So,
No,
I feel like
do you think
having
that's
people that share.
because they're probably doing something that they didn't think was right, but it worked for them?
It's a trick question. I feel
Yeah.
like
Well, I'm just
everybody
saying
does
because, like,
something that they're
yeah,
not
because
telling the public,
yeah,
Like, there's a lot
especially
of things
breeders,
from a
because they have a
breeder's
different
point of
operation.
view, and I'm not going to say
Yeah.
too much, but, like, there's a lot of things that we do that the public would not agree with on a ethical. I'm not going to say ethical like it's killing anything sense, but they're going to be like, oh, it needs more, But as a breeder point of view, they breed just perfect in certain scenarios that some people
Yeah.
might not say would. So I think we take a lot of shortcuts that people wouldn't keep.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you got to think of it as from a breeder to a pet keeper,
Correct.
two different people.
Yeah, because
So
a
they
breeder
look
is
at
going
it
to
from a
go
different.
for, like, leopard geckos in general. Like, a breeder is going to shoot for a rack system,
Yeah.
and a pet keeper is going to shoot for a tank.
Yeah.
There, most of the time when I have conversations with, like, serious pet keepers, it usually doesn't go well. Like, we get along, but they don't like the aspect of how we do things.
Yeah.
They look at it
Yeah.
like we're a mill, but I don't look at it like we're a mill. I breed. Why fix something that's not broke? Why fix or make something breed in a tank if it's less comfortable when it would be more comfortable breeding in the tub?
Yeah.
Because the
So you
tank's
still give
got
them all the
more.
parameters. You
Yeah.
still
Well,
give
then
them everything that they need. It's just not this glamorous,
correct.
tank that's planted and all. Like,
Well,
it works.
that's like when I give my
That's
care
worked
advice.
for
Everybody
people.
always asks. They're like, "Well, what kind of decorations do I need?" You don't. You don't need any decorations. You want decorations. That animal, in my opinion, doesn't care if you have a SpongeBob pineapple house in his tank or not. You know,
You're
so
right.
he more
They just
wants
want to
to
feel
have a
secure.
food bowl, a water bowl, a hide, and areas to hide and all. Now, if your hide just so happens to be SpongeBob's pineapple house, then hey, maybe he does like SpongeBob's pineapple, but it's not because it's the decoration. It's
Yeah. Yeah. They just
or the
want to feel
face
security.
plants and
That's all
stuff.
it is.
They just want stuff to clutter the area to make them feel safe. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be like fancy PetSmart decorations. It can be anything.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think some of the
Definitely.
best ones I've seen have been people taking, like, Ziploc tubs or Ziploc food bowls and cutting holes and taking that dry lock and stuff and, like, making them into actual,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
rock looking hides.
Yeah.
There's a lot of DIY ways you can do it too now.
Yep. No, it's all just imagination. No, but no for breeders. I mean, there's some breeders that, like I said, do the whole full thing. Like I said, I like Chihuahua Chamber on them. They don't do full bioactive, but they do.
Mhm.
It is planted.
Yeah, that's
And
another thing. Like, I feel like when it comes to social media, I feel like a lot of the bigger names will show you, the nicer of the setups, for like the really top end stuff. But I
yeah,
don't think everything is on the same scale, and
yeah,
as far as being kept that one way.
yeah. And then, I mean, like I said, it also depends on the animal too, right?
Correct.
Like some might require some other like more what's that? Just more intricate stuff in there, right? And then
Yeah.
some can be less, like it can not bare bones, but just less. Some things need all those different hiding spaces, and so that's why you put in their cork bunch of cork barks and everything like that. So now it's filled up. Leopard geckos, they can have a few hides. They go poop in one corner every single time. They got the water bowl. You got your little food dish, calcium, their little mineral dish. And they're content. Um, but with some things like maybe like a cat gecko, right? I'm sure they probably don't. Well, I don't know. Yeah, he might need some different requirements other than like a.
Cappuccino and the lilies. Sorry, my wife just came in here with a handful of
Uh,
eggs. They're short stacked. Tell me, there
nice.
should be a label on top of it. Just put them in some hatch tray. Like, how is there 4 of them? She's like, I don't want to bother you, but I don't know what to do. Give me 1 second.
Hey, at least she's helping.
Just get a deli cup with some hatch trays. I was wondering how there's 4. There's 2 females.
No. Oh,
She found 4 eggs, and she's like, why are there 4 eggs? They only laid 2, but she didn't realize there was a trio in there.
shit.
It was a male and 2 females, a crusty set, a little crusty group. There's the
Okay.
cappuccino and the lily whites.
Yeah. Nice.
Just coming here like,
So, I want to say, do you have any new future projects you think about doing?
I've always got new future projects I'm thinking about. I'm a gecko connoisseur. I tell people, like, I always say I've got everything I need, and then I'll find something that I like. I think but I don't think it's really technically gecko related, but I do have my assets on Dumbaras. I
Okay.
want to
Yeah.
add Dumbaras in, and
Yeah. I
I've
think
got
those are
my
going to
eyes
be
on
like
some.
one of the new hottest lizards. That's going to be a trend. Yeah.
I've got
I'm
my
already
eye on
seeing
some
that.
Asper. I've been wanting Aspers for a while to just add into
Okay.
the knobtail group,
Yeah.
but another part of me has this like mindset that if these Paleos hatch in this tank, like, and they're going to work like I think they are, I might drop and get some more pairs of those.
Okay.
But the females are really hard to find. That's the only issue with getting into the Paleos. I
Yeah.
got lucky and got mine from Justin. So
Okay. Yeah. I want to say, how many people are working with the Paleos?
not many, and I want to get
Yeah.
some rough throat leaf tails from Australia because I've got
Okay.
the amnicolas, but I want to get the salibrosis.
Yeah.
I want a
I know
lot
a
of
few.
things.
We all do.
I'm like a kid in a candy store when it comes to geckos. And I
You
also,
are.
like,
That's
on
why.
my top list is the Shriphorus welletinae. I want to get some of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. I think someone on our group was asking about those. What's his name? Matt Henry? Or
Yeah.
was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt somebody. But yeah, he was asking about those. I was like, good luck, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know anybody that really has them.
no one really does right now in the U.S.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I don't know how it'll happen. But you just give it some time and they'll pop up in the U.S. Somebody's going to
Yeah.
have some welletinaes eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of
I
like,
know. It's
what is it? Is it the Carpodactylus?
Levis.
It's the Australian gecko. It's one of the newer,
Yeah.
hotter trending ones.
Yeah. Australian the chameleon geckos.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think that's what they're
Yeah. I
calling.
know. What you call our buddy Kyle got some.
I'm thinking about adding some of those into the collection eventually too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like this year alone, I
Everything
think
you
I
name.
added in a good bit already. Like I just got the cat geckos, the Moroduras in, the shield tails. And I try to grab everything at like the beginning of the year versus like
Okay.
throughout the year. That way I can just get it over with at one run.
I wish I could. Yeah,
But
no, I'm slow with
my
my
wife,
stuff,
like,
but
you can ask her. I'm bad for. I'm like, look, I'll finish out something like, here, we got this done. Don't let me make no more decisions. And then the next day, hey, I did this, and she's like, but you didn't even ask. I'm like, yeah, you said no.
it's like you better do it now and ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I tell everybody. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is permission.
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious right there. Oh
You can
man.
get away with more that way.
Yeah, for real.
And I did get eggs from like Urodactylodes the other day too. So like I've got a good diverse egg collection going right now too. I've got eggs from the
Yeah.
cave geckos going. I just hatched the
Nice.
last knobtail eggs of the year. Which I had like my millies did some weird things. Like usually millies produce good for me every year. And
Yeah.
this year they did produce. I had the eggs and they incubated all of them about 50 days and then they molded out. And I
Really?
still didn't throw them due to the mold because I'll wait it out. And they completely
Yeah.
filled the deli cups with mold and you couldn't see the egg no more. Then I started throwing them away. Because I've had
Okay.
moldy eggs hatch in the past. So I wasn't like too concerned about it being a little moldy until it like went into a full bloom. So I don't know what happened this
Yeah.
year with the millies.
Yeah. I'm waiting. Like one of my Chihuahua eggs started turning color, so I'm waiting to see anything
That
happens with
that
that.
can still hatch out. They're like that. The last Chihuahua that I hatched, that white collar one, it hatched out
Mhm.
of a ugly egg. Like I didn't think that egg was gonna hatch. It was like 220 days in. Like it was stupid amount.
Wow. I got mine in the incubator, so I don't think they're gonna go that long.
See, I didn't put mine in the incubator because I was nervous. I just do them at room temp.
Yeah, I put mine in like around 82 degrees,
You can do that
and
with
they
Chihuahuas?
yeah, and they like
You
between
said it
like
all
80,
nonchalant, like
82.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like 80 to 80 between 80 and 82 degrees, and generally they hatch out between 70 and 90 days.
I'll try that 100%. I didn't think you was allowed to. I thought it would like cook them.
You can do whatever you want. You just gotta live with the repercussions.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, I
but
was
no,
just worried it would kill the egg.
I've listened to a couple podcasts with Michael Panone, Blue Chamber. And he's like, yeah, you could incubate them at a warmer temp because he's like, anything past 90 days with a Chihuahua generally is not going to be great. And that came from Phil Tremper. Uh, he's like, yeah, anything past that is like, yeah, you're asking for uh bad shit to happen, I guess. No,
Yeah.
not have
Well,
a healthy animal.
Well, I can say that one egg didn't hatch, like, but also
Yeah,
it was a weird egg. There was no baby, and it was just solid yellow, kind of like a dud egg that just kept going.
yeah,
But the one it did hatch, and it was weird. Like it come out a white collar visual, and it was nice
yeah.
looking. But it was the first experience for me with hatching Chihuahuas out of an egg. So I was like, well, maybe it's normal, maybe it ain't. Because I've
Yeah.
been trying to get Chihuahuas to go for a while now, and this was the first year that I actually saw success with them.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Like I said, I put mine in there. I have pretty much everything incubating between like 80 and 82 degrees in there. And like the only thing that was been a struggle was those ciliaris.
Yeah,
Everything
see, I
else is pretty
incubated
much
my Ciliaris at 84,
okay.
even across the board. And the only reason I did that was because that's what I do my knobtails at. And I knew with
Yeah.
them being like kind of from the same area, it should be okay. So I went with it that way.
Okay.
See, I just assumed that the new cows couldn't get over 80 because that's kind
I
of like
mean, if
what
you go
the
to
rule of
like I
thumb I
said,
was given when I got in the Cresteds was I don't let it get 80, keep everything at room temp.
yeah,
So
that
maybe
I
that's
think
just what I
that's a
got.
bunch of myths. Like,
Yeah, I'd say
what's
so.
your room right? Like, you have your room like in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
83, 6 degrees.
Well, right now mine's at
Yeah.
80 on the dot. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, I think there's a bunch of myths, to make people uh be able to get crested geckos and stuff like that. Just like how they're only supposed to eat the Pangea diet and no bugs and stuff like that. All that BS that people do to sell the geckos.
Oh
I think
yeah.
that's just part of it.
Well, that works
Yeah,
really cool for me because, like, I know like our main topics here was yellow spots and skunks, but I've got a lot of
yeah,
people that are on my following. That are gonna enjoy that information because
yeah,
I was definitely not aware of that.
yeah. I mean, like I said,
I just call
I
it
give my
like
Chihuahuas, I give them hot spots. They get a little hot spot on the thing because like when it's breeding season, I put like heat pads on the back of their PVCs,
hmm
and the female's always on there. Like when she has eggs in there, she is on that, laying on it, letting those eggs just develop with the heat. So, so them saying they don't need heat, I just call BS. I mean, you can literally go on a weather app and look up what the temperatures are over there.
Yeah, I mean, I know it gets
No.
up there, but I just assumed they'd be, tucked away in the burrows or barks of trees and all.
Yeah, I'm sure they kind of get out where
But I mean, like
sun
the
just to
last
bask a little
documentary
bit.
I watched of the people exploring, I mean, they was taking pictures and videos of the who was out during the day on the
Yeah,
trees and all, soaking in UVB rays. So
yeah. So they're getting a little bit of heat in. Just know what reptiles do best is thermoregulate. Go in there, warm their body up, then get on for the day. That's all.
yeah, get it over with early. Go ahead and bask
Yeah.
out there.
Yep. All right. All right. I think it's about time. I gotta go eat some dinner. I don't know about y'all. I'm
Yeah, I'm about to
hungry.
go do the same thing.
Yeah.
Get ready to go do this.
Yeah. Hey, John. So where can everybody find you at?
You can find me at Repticons. You can find me with Ultimate Reptile Show, Mid Atlantic. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Morph Market. Or they can all, they can always message me on Facebook. I will
Yeah.
say, like, social media, it's not that I'm not present a lot. So I got like 2 kids and I work a lot, so I don't get
Yeah.
on there quite as often as I should, But I do reply, and also sometimes it might seem like I'm ghosting them or ghosting you, but I'm not. I'll eventually get back to you.
Yeah. There you go.
But
All
shows
right.
would
Well, it's
probably be
definitely
like if you want a one-on-one like conversation with me, kind of like we've had here. The best place would be shows. Just come holler at me at a show, because I'll
okay.
give anybody
Definitely.
time out there. I'm not gonna ignore people. So that's the best
Cool.
way to get up
Appreciate
with me.
that.
Is see me at a show, and we'll be in Greenville coming up next month, I think. So
There you go.
Nice. Cool. Well, it's definitely a pleasure to have you on.
I
Like I
appreciate
said,
it.
we had that conversation or was it yesterday? I think it
Yeah,
was. No, you're talking about the God damn, what is that? It's the pseudo or what is it? Which gecko is it?
the sweater geckos marginus.
Yeah, smart genus. There you go. Yeah. Like I said, like you're talking about you want to get some experience on that. Like definitely I would love to have you on to talk about that once you
Yeah,
feel comfortable with them.
yeah, because I feel like at the end of this season, I'll have my notes where I need them, and we can definitely do a podcast on those guys. And maybe we can get somebody else. Like, I know Justin Muncherman, he's not working with them no more, but he has experience with them because he did have them, but
Yeah.
he didn't. He did say he hadn't successfully reproduced them. So, I mean,
Mhm.
but he's still got the keeping aspect. But I know who got his, and they're producing them. So I'll try to get with some people and try to see if we can't get a group together, and we'll get
Oh,
on
for
the
sure.
sweater geckos. And I'll
Yeah.
also, I'm going to reach out and talk with Paula Shore and them that are keeping these yellow spots and see if anybody like wants to maybe link up, and we can all try to get some more info on them and do another session on those guys. And
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. Appreciate that one. Yeah.
we can try to
Any
combine
more
them and
information
sweater
the better.
geckos together.
Yeah. All
Very
right,
cool.
cool. Appreciate that. All right, we'll definitely have a great night. So
You
we'll
too,
see
and
you.
I'm going to go
Like I
get
said,
some
I'll
dinner too.
cool. Like I said, I'll once everything's done, I'll send you the link for all this stuff, and then we'll go ahead and share it on your side. Okay.
All right, appreciate it, buddy. Y'all be
All right.
good.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
it
you,
easy.
brother. Take
Thank you.
care of
Nice
yourself.
meeting you, Anthony.